hear us.
And I don't see the bit feed at the top like you usually see. That's
Well, remember it's a different program
okay.
here, so as long as we can see.
You're
Oh,
frozen.
hey, I'm frozen. That's okay. We don't need me.
Oh, can you maximize the picture there? You can see this
What's that?
recording. Minimize the picture or whatever. Drop it down.
I could, but let me see if I can activate that. Defaults. No.
Jump to the other camera.
Jump to the other camera. Why did it do that? There we go.
La, la, la.
Okay.
Hopefully,
That should give us that
hopefully
camera
it
back.
keeps running.
Hopefully that's not looking weird to other people.
Don't move much. See that one, brother?
I'm frozen.
What the heck?
It's like
I'd rather have this camera anyway. So we'll default on this. Activate. Okay.
Has problems.
I'm gonna figure this out one of these days, I swear.
I figured out a little more today.
Okay. Alright, hey Video Land. We may be back. I don't know. We'll see how this video turns out. It may be awful, it may be good. This is why I'm a podcaster, not a freaking vidcaster, man. I can't stand this video crap. Okay, you guys ready?
Ready.
Hey folks, welcome to this episode of the GalaxyCast. I have with me
3
people in the studio tonight. I have with me Eric, the artist.
I am one of the Knights of Stimpy.
I have yes, you are. I have with me Gary the Stud.
I think that's me.
And I am Bob Crispin, your semi-host. Tonight we have several things we're going to talk with you about. We're going to talk about Peter Mayhew, a big story there. We're going to talk to you about the Vanity Fair issue of the Rise of Skywalker. We're going to cover Avengers Endgame because, yeah, that's right, we haven't covered that yet. And, well, we had to wait for the spoiler time to go by. It's done. It's time to talk. We're going to talk about that. And then we're going to take a break and come back and talk about Star Wars Resistance and one of the latest episodes of Star Wars Resistance.
Latest for us, anyway.
Right. So, it is with a very heavy heart that I have to report that on April 30th, that Peter Mayhew passed away in North Texas. And that has me very sad. I'll admit, I took a moment and kind of wept at the passing of Peter. And I'll tell you why I wept. Peter is such a cool guy. And the things he did for costumers and cosplayers and Star Wars fans and just people in general, I can't even begin to explain to people. He made my family feel like part of his family, and every time I was there, I felt like I was part of it. And Angie, same way. She always made my kids and I feel like we were family around her, and I can't say enough about the Mayhew family. I know, Gary, I know you have been around them quite a bit too, and I'm sure you felt the same way. I don't know if you have any thoughts on Peter passing, and
They definitely broke the mold with him.
yeah, I'll agree with you on that one. There's never going to be another Peter Mayhew, and I can't begin to describe that to people. And if you knew Peter, you know exactly what we're talking about. I always said that his heart matched his size. He was such a big guy, but his heart was so big too. And I can't say it enough for people who are like, what do I do with this? Like, how do I wrap my head around this? What do I do about it? And I have been preaching it to the choir and everybody I can think of. I've been telling everybody, go out and give to Peter's foundation. He has the Peter Mayhew Foundation, and if you really want to honor Peter Mayhew and you really want to make a big deal about it, he started a foundation just before he passed away. There was it was kind of a coverall. It was for kids, it was for families struggling, it was for kind of a make-a-wish kind of moment. He really just wanted to help humanity in general, and I loved the fact that his foundation wanted to do whatever it had to do to help people, and I just thought that was such a cool thing, and that's Peter. That's who he was. It was an exemplar of who he was, and so if you're feeling compelled to do something, and I totally get it, I suggest giving to the Peter Mayhew Foundation and giving back in that way.
Yeah.
Eric, I don't know if you ever had a chance to meet the family or
I met him and his wife once at a convention.
Okay.
It was long before I met you guys. I was doing chalk art at the show. I think he got to see it. He mentioned, "Oh, you're that guy. You're doing that over there." I saw it in passing.
Right.
But I think it was an old Wizard World show. So we're talking a ways back
Wow.
I haven't done a Wizard show since 2009.
Yeah.
So you're talking like 10, 11 years ago that I may have met him briefly. And it was just long enough to say hi to him and tell him how much I appreciated his work, what he'd done and all. So it was, he seemed like a really nice guy. I have to go off all the other stories I hear from other people, and from everything I hear, it's a big loss. And now we've lost Carrie and Kim, and we lost Kim Baker, and
Yeah, it's starting to get real. You know what I mean? Like it's.
I mean, they're all getting up there in age,
Right.
And it's going to happen. We're going to lose a lot of those people.
And I said it was going to be really difficult when we started losing some of the main cast members. So losing Leia was a shot, and now losing Chewie is kind of like a bigger hit to the heart. And I'm just like, and Kenny, and I get Kenny, was in R2, but it's hard to associate him with R2, even though we know he was in. I don't know. I had a hard time like making that association. And I didn't meet. I got to be honest. I didn't meet Kenny as much as I met Peter, and I met some of these other guys, and so to have that, it just puts things in perspective a little bit. You kind of forget that these guys are mortal, and there's a time, and we've talked, Gary, about Jeremy Bullock's not looking great.
Right.
The last time we saw him, and I'm worried he's not too far away from some of these issues, and we've all seen Lando. I love Billy D, but he's not looking great either lately. So to see him in the next movie is kind of cool.
Yeah.
But I worry. We're getting to that point.
And
I don't
what
know.
about John Williams?
John Williams is the one I'm like, we still haven't heard anything about
Right.
what's going on with him, and
quiet.
it's been very quiet. Although he is confirmed for the next movie,
Yeah.
the soundtrack's still moving forward. But I have heard from musicians in the studio, he is very limited in mobility. So when he's conducting, it looks like, at least according to some of the musicians in the studio, like he's in pain while he's conducting, and that's kind of a shame because that's his thing. That's his mojo. When you take that away, it kind of diminishes, his capacity and things, and it's a shame. But I mean, like, he's 86 years old. I mean, and the guy's won how many Grammys in his lifetime? I mean, oh my gosh, the guy's got more Grammys than he knows what to do with. It's amazing, but at the same time, it's sad, and the movie industry will never be the same.
Nope.
So, with that in mind, Peter Mayhew, we miss you. Angie, we're thinking of you and your family, and I know this has been a tough month or so for the Peter Mayhew group. I thought one of the coolest things that happened was the weekend after Peter passed. I think it was Dallas Comic-Con was going on that weekend. Instead of just like taking all his stuff down and not doing anything with Peter Mayhew, they instead put up a memorial. And they had a book you could sign and write a message to Angie and the family and to Peter, and they had like people could put flowers there and like candles and stuff around. And it was so popular, the con literally had a line going through the con, around the con floor, and out the door, just to get to Peter's table to make a contribution to either the foundation or a set of flowers or just say their condolences. And I'm like, that was just Dallas Comic-Con. That's crazy. But it just shows you the impact that this guy had.
Mm-hmm.
That's how many people were willing to come and pay their respects. And I think that says a lot about Peter. So it's kind of sad to think about, but at the same time, I know Peter wouldn't want us to be sad, and that's where I struggle with this. He would want us celebrating all the great things he did. He did amazing things. He really did. So, with that in mind, let's keep along the Star Wars lines, and let's move ahead, and that's looking ahead in Star Wars. Vanity Fair recently released an article, and more importantly, it's not just the article that's important. To me, it's the photos in the article that kind of seem to make the whole thing. And I'm scrolling back to the top so that we can kind of see what we're talking about. So first off, there were two covers to the Vanity Fair article. I'll bring this up here for the video people. The first cover on the left was for Kylo Ren, and the second cover on the right was for Rey. The interesting thing I thought was that Kylo's costume is back to the one from The Force Awakens. And I know a lot of people don't know the little nuances of this. I've started to learn them, thanks to Kelly and some others who've been looking at costumes. The pleating on the arm went away in the last movie, and now it's back for this movie. which I thought was kind of interesting. But the way his cloak is connected is kind of interesting and different. So it'll be interesting to see, the little nuances they put in. But Rey, I've been trying. I don't see any differences in her costume yet.
She's gone back to
The bland dust costume, as I call it. It's kind of the desert looking costume, and she's got her blaster still. She's got the same, staff that
well
she
now
had.
she has Han's blaster.
Right, that's
Uh,
true.
and she's
Does
got-
she have Han's
It's
blaster?
Han's blaster and Luke's lightsaber.
Right. Okay.
So she's kind of
She's kind of the representation. All right, I get it. And then if you scroll down in the article, and this is the part that all my friends went bonkers over, they show the director, J.J. Abrams, standing around what definitely seems to be, and they've confirmed they're in it, the Knights of Ren
Yep.
in this movie. And I gotta admit, some of the looks, now that we get a chance to see them closer, instead of out in the rain and the dark in the middle of nothingness, they're pretty cool.
Well, I'm sure they've been redesigned for this movie now that we're seeing them.
Well, I'm sure they are adapting too, and of course, all my friends are immediately like, "Oh my gosh, you gotta make that helmet! Oh my gosh, you gotta make this! Oh my gosh, you gotta do that!"
Well, the
and
one,
I
the
laughed.
one in the foreground looks like we're standing behind Ronan the Accuser.
It does, right? Like
But
he looks like Ronan the Accuser. Right
We
here.
don't know what that one looks like, which
Right.
could be a big
Plus,
reveal or
plus,
something.
there's this guy behind
Now that's
him.
the one we've seen before. He has the kind of grenade
Right, great fleet of
face,
faceplate, right?
and it looks like looks like a grenade side
Yep.
with silver. We saw that design way back from the book when we were looking at Force Awakens.
Right.
With
That was Jedi Master Dillion,
Jedi
yeah.
Killer Dillion.
That's what got us back to.
But I remember one of them was called the Armory, and I think it was
Yeah,
that one.
I think you're right.
That had that.
Yeah.
I wonder if they're keeping those names because
I hope
I
so.
liked some of the names. I thought
Yeah.
the Armory and the different names they had was pretty cool. So I'm kind of hoping they keep those, but we'll see.
This guy on the left has intrigued me a little bit. I kind of, this is an interesting idea, having the gun built into the hand
Yeah.
idea, the little small slit to see out. Of course, I'm thinking from a costuming standpoint, I'm like, you jerks. Like, I'm never going to be able to see out of that,
No,
ever,
he
if
can't
I
either.
decide to do that costume. There's no way that guy's seeing out of that. I don't care what anybody says. That guy's just as bad as the guy all the way on the right, who's
Yeah.
got just enough of a slit to see through, maybe.
I wonder if the kind of opaque white things from the outside.
Oh,
from the
those
eyes,
are maybe
if
see-through?
those maybe are see-through for him. And
That
maybe
might
was
be,
something.
at least a little bit to peek out. Otherwise, it's almost...
Because it could be, like the guy with the grenade face could be all one-way mirror stuff. He could have a
Right,
great
yeah,
view
he could have a
if
great
it's
view if it's all one way.
glass like
Right,
that.
right.
So,
But this one, I'm kind of like, you can't get away with that. That's just, there's no way.
Oh, it's because he's more of a tank than he is anything else.
You're right, he is kind of built like a tank. I thought the one that's the most interesting or intriguing of all of them is the guy that's like front, center, left, who's got kind of a sword-looking thing on his arm. He's got
it's
some...
like a machete or
Yeah, like almost a machete.
scimitar.
I was gonna say it looks like a Samurai Jack's sword, right? Like almost like that. And he's got greaves on each arm. He's got that almost like Kylo Ren sounding belt. I'm apologizing now because we're doing construction in my house and my wife can't stand still. And then there's this helmet that looks almost Batman-esque.
The best one out of this whole picture though
Yeah.
is the pirate outfit.
Yeah, like yeah.
I like that.
I didn't know Pirates of the Caribbean was in Star Wars, but
Well,
apparently
look at the guy in
Jack
the back,
Sparrow is.
right above Abrams' right shoulder.
I
He's
know.
got
I kind of thought about that too. He's got like,
blinders on.
Yeah.
They almost look like horse blinders.
yeah, right. Like, yeah. I'm thinking of all these guys. He's got to have the best shadowing going on for him to be able to see. Yeah. I'm kind of curious if those like close. You know what I mean? Wouldn't that be kind of cool if he could like pull a button and they pop open and they close? Be kind of a cool thing. My wife wanted to make the podcast tonight, so this is her way. So then the next picture down, this is the one I was kind of like, whoa! Was this masked scoundrel Zori Bliss. This is seen in the thieves' quarters of the snow-dusted world, Kijimi. And I looked at that costume and I was like, dude, it's sweet. I mean, like, it is awesome looking. I could almost pull it off because my chest size would almost match hers.
Yep, I can see that.
It's Carrie
Yep,
Russell,
yep.
by the way.
Is that Carrie Russell?
Carrie
underneath?
Russell.
Wow, I have Carrie Russell's chest size. I don't know that. But I love the helmet. The helmet is just flipping
Very
awesome.
Rocketeer. It's like
Yeah,
it's very
right?
Rocketeer.
I don't like it.
I think it was. Well, I see a mixture of Rocketeer, a little bit of Alien almost
Yeah,
look into
with
that,
the
right?
extended back
With the
end.
extended back end. Somebody said it looked very like Egyptian because of the
Yeah.
styling on the.
So I wonder if she looks human underneath, or if she looks alien and we find out she has an underneath.
I'm wondering if that's the case. Yeah. Well, and there's this like.
I wonder, did you
thought it was kind of interesting. There's these fans on the backside of it that kind of look like an air conditioning unit. You know, I don't know. It just kind of looked weird. I'll be right back.
Yeah, it's enough to be able to record it. And I don't want to stop her. I mean, if she's...
Yeah. Give me a second.
Just let that go.
Yeah.
There's a little
It's just blind. If it was a background hum or something, it's one thing. And if she's got to keep working, I mean, that's fine. I don't want her to stop. I just don't want to be hearing people arguing and fighting. Like, okay. I'll just take off.
I gotta be out here with 10 o'clock anyway.
Well, we started early enough.
Yeah. That's only you, you know. And make a phone call on side politics on the way home. So our new council president's stopped all communication with us.
Why?
No clue.
Okay.
All good, Jordan?
What's that?
All good, Jordan?
I'll pay for this later, but it's okay. Me being in the doghouse is nothing new. All right, right?
Yeah. So go back to talking about Kerry Russell.
So, you know, it does have an Egyptian-esque look to it. I thought that was kind of interesting. I was looking at, like, the major, like, that's some major design work on the arm. I mean, like, major design work on the arm that she's got going on there.
It is pretty cool.
Kind of wondering how cosplay are going to pull that off. Like, I'm curious. To me, it's got to be piping. That's a lot of work. A lot of piping work, if that's what it is.
Well, the helmet and the details on all the stuff. What I like about the costume is there's a simplicity to a lot of it.
Right.
The bodysuit.
It's not like it's overdone armor or anything like that.
But
yeah.
then it highlights with intense details in certain areas.
Right.
And I've seen that design work done before where they kind of keep something simple, but they draw your eye to very specific, like, intense and detailed areas.
Yeah.
I kind of like that.
Yeah, I thought that costume grabbed my attention.
I agree with Gary that the helmet elongated. I got to see it in action. Like, is it going to look clunky or does it move easily? And of course, the character is going to make it or break it, you know.
I agree.
So
yeah.
we'll see how it goes.
Hopefully, Kerry Russell can support that. I like her as an actress. I think she'll do a good job with it. Then we just go down to the next one. This is called the Force Majeure. First Order leader is General Hux, who we know, and Allegiant General Pride on the bridge of Kylo Ren's destroyer. So apparently there's a hierarchy here. I don't know if General Hux is below or above.
I'm guessing he's
Allegiant General.
The general sits. The person sitting
I
is
guess
the
that's
person
true.
in charge.
I would think so, yeah. But why haven't we heard of this guy before? You know what I mean? Like, it's just so weird to have a character pop in at the end of a trilogy and be like, he's over top of Hux.
Yeah.
And we're kind of
Well, we
really?
never really saw the Emperor apart from a little bit till the third
Till
movie.
the third movie, yeah, I guess that's
In the
true.
original trilogy, and he was extremely important. So this could be a similar,
Could be, yeah.
similar thing.
Could be a similar
Maybe
thing.
it is the Emperor.
Maybe. Maybe that's what the Allegiant is all this time. Who knows?
He's controlling
Yeah.
people from a distance, and that's his body.
And then I thought it was interesting, at the bottom of the article, they start throwing in some, like, odds and ends pictures, what I call them, you know what I mean? Like, oh, look, we took a picture on the set. So this one's got Rey in it with, well, Chewie and C-3PO, who's got a umbrella over him, which I just thought was funny. And we have
I believe that's
Finn.
Finn.
I believe it looks like
unless
Finn.
it's a body double, it's got to be Finn.
Yeah, and it looks like the front of Rey's speeder, right?
I think that might be the thing we see in the commercial that they're riding.
Oh,
during the
yeah,
chase
yeah,
scene.
during the chase scenes.
Yeah, I think it's some kind of big boat thing.
Yeah.
And you got Kevin Costner with the hat.
Right? It does look like Kevin Costner with a hat on. And then the guy who's doing the weird leaning, and I get it, he's not supposed to be in the shot or whatever, but like he's doing it really weird. I don't know. I just thought it was interesting we're still using Panavision carts. And I don't know why I'm like struck by that, but it's like I thought Panavision was out of business, but maybe I'm wrong on that. I might be wrong. Maybe they're still using Panavision parts. I thought they weren't around, but this one's called Desert Power. It's Juna Suotomo, who's Chewbacca, Ridley, Anthony Daniels, C-3PO, John Boyega is Finn, so that's Finn, awaits call to action in the chase scene. And then there's another one, C-3PO specifically.
Under an umbrella being a person.
Under an umbrella. I'd like to point out, guess what he doesn't have?
A red arm.
No
or,
red arm.
Or a silver leg.
Right, or a silver leg for that matter.
He's
So
all gold.
he's all gold. This one's called Hot Take. Member of the crew Shade and Shine Daniels, the only cast member to appear in all 9 of the Skywalker films while BB-8 was on. That's almost kind of like a rip on everybody else. I kind of feel like, but I won't go there.
Yeah, but his appearances in some of these films have been minor.
Right,
He barely was
drastically
in
minor.
some of them, but you know.
And then as you scroll down farther, it looks like there's a band of guys in the background chasing that boat you were talking about.
Well, you missed the space balls too.
The what?
The bow and arrow.
Yeah, well, higher.
Right here.
Oh, yeah, I
There's
forgot
the
about
two
this
main
one.
shots, and everyone says that. So there's 2 shots here. One is Finn and Jana, a new character, Jana
Right.
or Jaina, atop Orbox. So they're riding something into a fight.
Leading the charge against the mechanized forces of the First Order.
So we're gonna get that. I think we're gonna get the same thing we got Return of the Jedi, which was the primitive versus the technology. You know, the Ewoks versus the.
Which has me concerned again. And when I read this article, I was kind of like, oh my gosh, are we going to do what we
Return of the
did
Jedi.
with Return of the Jedi? And what's my problem with Return of the Jedi? The flipping Ewoks beating up the stormtroopers.
Right.
Are we going to have another scenario where somebody's going to have, like, freaking bows and arrows beating up on stormtroopers again?
I know, and that's the other thing. It's like my problem with Force Awakens was it was New Hope. My problem with one of my problems with Last Jedi was it really was kind of Empire Strikes Back, just out of order. It still had the sage teachings by the older character. It had the walkers.
The older character dies just a little out of order instead of in the third movie.
Yeah, the walkers were at the end instead of the beginning.
Right.
You know, there was a lot of symbolism to Empire Strikes
There was.
Back. We didn't go to Cloud City. We went to Gambling City. It was, you know, it was that little offshoot story.
Right.
And now, are we going to get Return of the Jedi kind of rehashed with, obviously, the Death Star's back, the Emperor's back, you know. So there's a lot that, as always, makes me nervous.
And they will be at Endor. They will.
You think they're going to end up at Endor?
That's where the Death Star is at.
Oh yeah, well
it's
that's
on the, it is
yeah,
on
it's
Endor.
on the moon of Endor. Yeah.
Well, is it?
It's not.
Because the Endor is a forest moon, and they come up to a clearly like barren cliff.
Yeah, the forest moon of Endor.
Right.
The moon is supposed to be all forest.
Right. It's the forest moon of Endor. Endor
is the
actual
planet. When they
because they went down to Endor.
Right.
Oh, so the moon was forested.
Yeah.
Endor.
Right.
They were on Endor.
No.
The forest moon.
They were on the forest moon of Endor.
So we never saw Endor.
Right.
No.
That's an interesting bit of trivia that you could tell people.
Correct.
And say, hey, you know, what did Endor look like? And they'll tell you, oh, that was the moon.
Correct. That was the moon of
So
Endor.
we never saw Endor. Okay, so that's interesting that we'll get to see Endor at least.
Yeah. That's the implications that it's actually on the planet
That
of
was what I would
Endor.
assume. The gravity would be stronger than the moon. You know?
Right, so it's sucked it onto
Would
the
have
planet
pulled
as opposed to onto
pieces
the
of
moon.
it.
Correct. So there's that other shot that we were talking about. I thought it was kind of funny that BB-8 just kind of he's going to fall out any minute. I'm just pointing that out. You know, he's a roly-poly-oly. He could fall out at any second. Then we have the famous shot that everybody kind of squeed over when it originally came out, and this is the cockpit of the Millennium Falcon with Lando Calrissian in the driver's seat, with Poe Dameron in the passenger seat. We have Chewbacca behind
looking
him.
like Brendan Fraser from The Mummy.
Right? He kind of does. I was kind of like, what are they going for there?
Well, they're going for a Han Solo Indiana Jones mix, so you think of him as the Solo character, and he's even riding in the seat. You know,
Do you think that's the plan here? Like he's going to replace Solo?
I felt like
eventually?
I felt like he was the Solo character from the get-go.
I was kind of trying to figure out if it was Finn or Dameron that's going to replace Solo. I was
Yeah,
having a hard
Finn-
time with that.
Okay.
Immediately, Finn was too. He was too nervous about things and not strong enough. And Poe was the pilot and
The cocky,
pay
SOB,
attention to rules.
Yeah, the hot shot.
Yeah, the hot shot. So I always thought Poe was the Solo.
Yep.
I guess that's where I've had the
I
problem.
always thought Finn was kind of the Skywalker in a
Yep.
way, that he was the nervous,
Oh,
unknowing.
See, that was my issue with Finn. Not because he's black or anything else, but because I couldn't figure out where he fit into the. Like everything else mirrored Star Wars, right? And I could not figure out where Finn fit into that like mirror image of everything else. Like Rey to me felt like Luke Skywalker
And
more
that's
than
the thing is it's
Finn
kind,
did. You know what I
kind
mean?
of got two Lukes. in a
Right,
way.
and that's what's throwing me off. Is I'm kind of like I don't know what to
no,
do with that.
Everyone
you know?
who's listening, no, we're not saying that all of them have to match the old characters.
No, but we're saying they
We're just-
generally did
what
it
are-
anyway.
Yeah, they
you know?
did it anyway. What are the archetypes they're kind of catching on?
Right.
And Finn is a bit of a loss. He kind of floats.
Right.
He was First Order, now he's not. He worked with the heroes, but then he tried to get away from them in the second movie and run away, but then he came back. He's been
See,
very.
and I feel like he's the one character they threw in just to go, ha! It's not just like Star Wars. And I'm kind of like, yeah, but that's not enough.
I think they could have done a lot more where they runaway stormtrooper.
Right.
I think there's a lot of story there they could have mined that they didn't.
Right. Well, Chewbacca's the Obi-Wan character, though.
Yeah.
He really is, because he's the one that took the Jedi under his arm and
True.
is helping her out.
People have complained there's no dice.
Yeah, I was just about to point out. So going back to the picture, one thing a lot of people complain about is there's no dice. The other thing, and it took me a while to figure it out, they have the new droid.
Yeah, he's over there leaning around.
DDO. It took me a little while to figure out, oh, that's a droid. That's not just some part of the
I
ship
don't like his nose.
hanging out.
The nose looks like a Dixie cup with a mesh on the bottom. It looks
Well,
cheap.
you know, his head is kind of weird and awkward shaped and everything else. Although, I'll say this. I don't know if you guys have watched the Star Wars TV show where he talks.
No.
I love his voicing. It's really cool. We'll have to watch a clip later. I think you guys would enjoy it. He actually has like an inflection, like a, you know, he's got, I like it. I mean, it's almost like BB-8, but a little simpler than BB-8 is.
Okay, so why is everybody upset about no dice?
Because they feel like Han's dice should have been put back
Right.
in Millennium
But
Falcon.
the dice should have been passed back to the Millennium
Because
Falcon.
Leia's got them.
I know.
Does she keep them?
Yeah, why not?
Then, you know, that's the only thing.
Right.
I'm sure she's got them. But.
I thought it was interesting that Lando's back in his old shirt.
Yeah.
And back in his cape. I thought that was a nice throwback to the Han Solo movie, and I'm glad they did that and didn't modernize Lando and try to bring him back up. And then if you scroll down further, we get Jordanian locals play the Aki natives of the planet Hassana. I'm hoping I'm saying that.
Yeah, that's the desert planet.
You know, interesting little like alien creatures here and all sorts of stuff. All I could again think of was like it's a version of Tatooine with Mos Eisley, you know, and
the these look like aliens from District 9 in a way.
They do, yeah, you're right.
And they look like
well, they look like squid face without as many tentacles.
Yep.
Tibetan monks and stuff.
Yeah.
They do kind of have that, Tibetan.
Well, that's the thing is, I wonder if
to
it's going to be, they're a peaceful race,
Right.
and somehow they're going to
get sucked into it.
Yeah.
So here's the picture that everybody was like, oh, there he is. You know, like I said, he hasn't been in the news, but he was in the Vanity Fair article. Composer John Williams conducting a Star Wars score, drawing on themes and motifs he has woven across 4 decades. I didn't think there would ever be a second film, he said. What I thought was interesting too is in the background of this shot is a shot with Leia.
Yeah.
Like almost like they timed that just to say, hey, Leia is in this film. You know, it's kind of a big deal, and check it out. And, you know, I always find these shots exciting because the technology, right, that we have, and these guys are still using sheet music and stand lights from the 1980s. You know, I just always find that funny. I don't know why.
Mic'd.
Yep, they're all just individually mic'd, which just makes it easier for scoring. Here's the one everybody flipped out about too. Luke Skywalker with R2-D2 and the ground burning behind him. They're like, oh, he's going to be in the film. And I'm like, it's a flashback.
Yeah,
I guarantee it.
It's back when the school
It looks
was
like the
destroyed.
school being destroyed yet again. I think we're just going to get another scene from it. It says, from the ashes, Mark Hamill's Luke and R2-D2 speculation is rampant about who will rise as the Skywalker, the movie's title, and how that choice will reflect the way that the world has changed since the Star Wars debut in 1977.
Okay, what that is the funeral pyre for Vader. That's what that is.
You think that's what that is in the background? It's a little too chaotic to be a funeral pyre, I think.
No,
I still think it's the school burning from the last movie.
No, the funeral pyre just expanded and burned the whole first movie.
They had no control over it at that
So
point.
here's the thing. So the Emperor's back. We thought he was
The
dead.
very
He's
next
back.
day, the Emperor.
Did he was he able to create light from the Force, like they said, you know, in the previous movies, how he was able to literally, manipulate midichlorians to create light. So maybe he brought himself back. What if the Rise of Skywalker is Luke is going to do the same thing, and we're going to get an actual physical Luke back?
Maybe. I still I still go by my whole I think the Rise of
remember his tagline too. No one really dies.
Right, but I think the Rise of Skywalker, I'm still in that guise of they're just going to change Jedi to Skywalker.
Right, and that's what I mean.
It's the easiest way to make this a thing, right? So the Rise of Skywalker is basically the Rise of the Jedi.
Yeah. Except they're not going to be called Skywalkers. They're
Right.
going to be very neutral.
Right. They're going to be gray as opposed to being taking sides.
Right, which goes back to the prophecy of Anakin being
The chosen one.
Because he did bring balance to the Force.
Right.
And brought the Jedi back to the center
think
as opposed to being on one side or
You
the
think
other.
he'll show up? We're
Anakin.
gonna get an Anakin or a Vader moment.
I think you're gonna see a Force Ghost of Anakin.
I was just about to say that. I think you might see a moment with Luke, Yoda, Obi-Wan, Anakin, all in Force Ghost, overlooking.
McGregor being the Obi-Wan, or
McGregor.
McGregor
No,
playing an old.
I think they'll do McGregor young. Why not? They're going to show an Anakin young, probably. I would imagine. Not Shaw, which I still think should be the case, but I won't go there. But that's what I think will be one of the final shots is them overlooking the gray Jedi temple being constructed or whatever. I still think what's going on with the Emperor, I still hang by what we've talked about, Gary, which is he has figured out how to transcend life, and I think he's traveling from body to body. I still think he was in Snoke's body up until Snoke died.
Right.
And then I stand by I think he's in Kylo's body, and that's why you see the shift in Kylo's aggressiveness at the end of the last
instead
movie.
of killing Kylo, they'll get him out of Kylo, and Kylo will become a big guy.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah.
See, there you go. And that's
What everyone wants. They want
he and Rey will go off and start their temple together.
Yeah.
Right.
So you think we've pretty much figured out the whole movie?
I think I have. I might be completely wrong.
I'd love to be surprised.
And I have no insider information, so people are like, oh my gosh, here he goes telling everybody everything. I'm not. I
What-
actually am not talking to my insider people.
What I would do is read it the whole way that Kylo is under the influence of the Emperor,
Yeah.
and as he becomes a good guy, have Rey just cut it out, and her eyes just turn yellow.
I would love to see some sort of shift or some sort of dramatic change. I really would. Instead of it being just like that, because it's too convenient, it's too easy, it's too buttoned up tight. You know what I mean?
It'd be shocking for everybody because everybody thought that Kylo was the evil one of the whole thing.
Do you really think it'd be shocking for everybody?
I think it would.
Oh my gosh, I think a lot of people are thinking like we are. I really do.
No.
But maybe I'm wrong. So. Okay, so our last topic, because I know we were going to spend a lot of time on this, was Avengers Endgame. And I would say spoilers, but you know what, people, we're past the spoiler point. Even the Russo brothers have agreed upon that one. We are way past the spoiler point of Avengers Endgame. We all went and saw it in the same night, in the same theater, in the same place. So, yes.
We've not talked about it since, and that was
We have not talked about it since, which I'm surprised that we have not. But
my
we got
entire
busy
month
and
of
things
June,
happened that
or
were
May
crazy.
was busy. I was not barely home.
Same here, graduations and crazy
Yeah.
stuff going on, and so we haven't talked about it. And I'm curious as to what you guys have to say about Avengers Endgame. I have my own opinions, and I have a feeling we may not all be on the same page in this one.
It's highly possible.
So, what did you guys think of Avengers Endgame overall? Like, did you like the movie? Did you not like the movie? Did it meet your expectations, or did it fall short? What do you guys think?
And everybody looks at me.
Well, I'm curious what you guys
He
think.
turns the camera on me, though. So.
Yeah, well, why not, Eric, right?
It was your idea to get
Okay.
everybody to go.
I will
Yeah.
say that Avengers Endgame did not entirely meet my expectations, but I did enjoy the movie, and the reason I enjoyed the movie so much and can remember it that way is not long after I found a video on YouTube, which was no video from the movie, but someone had recorded audio moments.
Right.
They basically had the entire movie, and just text would come up saying what's happening. Like, oh, this is the moment that Steve Rogers fights himself in
Right.
the past, or this is the moment that you first meet Hulk, or whatever. It's describing those, and I heard the audience's reactions, clearly recorded on opening night, and there were many times when those moments came up, and I was like, that was a great moment.
Okay.
That was a great moment. And as I think about those individual moments, they really did strike me. There's a few times listening to just that audio and the crowd's reaction that I welled up, and I was like, yeah, they got me with some of those moments really good. So, I think Infinity War was a better superhero movie. The action was more evenly paced.
Yeah.
The interactions between the characters, because we had more characters interacting for a longer part of the film, which
Right.
allowed for more variance. They told the multiple stories pretty interestingly and stuff. I think Infinity War was complex. Endgame was complex. There was definitely a lot of explaining and exposition that had to be handled.
Right.
And the action was a lot lower than I expected for 2/3 of the movie. They did, however, redeem themselves in my mind with the last 45 pure superhero bliss in my mind. I loved it at the end. So overall, I give it a positive. It's a different movie than Infinity War, so it's very hard for me to compare the two and say apples to apples that, oh, I like this one better, just because it told a very different story. It really was, hey, we're going to spend a lot of time with these initial characters. Like, I think a lot of people expected, we're going to get tons of jumping around crossovers, we're going to see alternate realities with superheroes. They were expecting a very, very comic booky movie, and instead they said, no, this is a send-off to the original Avengers and the original Marvel cast that we've been following for 10 years. We're going to follow them through this last series of events and focus in on those core characters. And I think that made people go, oh, it's not Infinity War Part 2. It's a very different film. And that was tough for some people. I liked that they took the time to kind of do that with those characters. It gave it a lot of emotional heft going into that final third. So overall, I liked it, but it's a very different movie than Infinity War.
All right, Gary, what do you think?
Not enough cowbell. No, when they were doing the time jumping and all that, they should have brought Coulson back. And I know it would probably mess up your Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and everything, but they should have brought him back.
Well, and that's the problem. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is in a really weird spot right now where Coulson, I'm going to ruin it for you guys. I'm sorry if you're not watching the show, but for those people who are watching the show know that Coulson's like back on Earth, but he's not Coulson. He's not a good guy. He's part of this weird group of bandits that are going around stealing things and going through time, and we're trying to figure out what his role is and why that's happening. And I think it's because whatever happened in Infinity War, somehow when the snap happened, I think because he went to Tahiti, it played with his alien side. And so I think that's why we're seeing a clone of Coulson or a different Coulson altogether. And I think that's why they didn't bring Coulson back, because it wouldn't work with the TV show. I think they had to leave him out of it.
But
in
they've
that regard.
always said that the TV show and the movies are different entities, so.
Except for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. They have agreed that all... Oh, no. They have agreed that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Unless they retconned the whole crappy show and all that.
Well, if you look at Winter Soldier and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., there is no way the two of them could exist without being side by side.
Back then they tied in closer, but from what I've heard, I even heard someone say it recently, that they're even considering S.H.I.E.L.D. becoming its own thing. Like, it's branched off into almost like a multiverse territory.
It is, okay, so I will say this. It is, and on the multiverse side of things, it's already branched into the multiverse. But I truly think they're doing that to prepare for you for Spider-Man. They're
Yeah, but what about if we're not following Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
I think they're doing that because if you follow Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., you've seen some of the things you're going to see in Spider-Man. If you're not, it's not a big deal. You could still follow Spider-Man. And so, like, yes, they're separate, but they're still happening in the same universe. It's not like the Netflix series or, I'm trying to think of like Cloak and Dagger, right? There's no way they've agreed that they're even in the same universe. They're not.
Well, Figgy came right out and said that even Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. wasn't.
He initially said that, yes, but he's backtracked it. He actually has backtracked it. The Russo brothers have agreed that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is part of what they're doing and actually are working with some of the producers. So there is kind of this weird dichotomy within Marvel about where does Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fit in. And what screwed it up for a while, and I'm going to be honest about it, was the overlap with the Inhumans. They don't want that Inhumans TV show to be a thing at all. And so they're kind of like, well, those 12 episodes where the Inhumans were in there, that didn't happen. Like, that's kind of the way they're reacting to that. And so I think that's where a lot of people are confused. I think they were trying to cut that part of the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. out, but still keep the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. into the universe of what's going on. Because they mentioned the snap. They've specifically talked about Thanos in the show. They mentioned the moment, and you know they're talking about the snap. So they're aware of it, so obviously they're still interacting.
Did any of the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. people disappear when the snap happened?
It didn't happen the way it did in the movie, because the rumor is that because Coulson left with a group of people, and they disappeared, and now they're the ones that came back, and so that's the rumor is, although you didn't see it, the snap caused them to disappear somewhere.
I call bullshit on that.
I'm just saying that's I'm just saying that's
Let's
the
get back
discussion.
to Endgame though. We're spending a lot of time on Shield.
We are. But I think Gary makes a valid point about Coulson and the fight.
Yeah.
You know, it would have been cool to see Coulson. I know what you're saying. I agree with you there. But I know why they didn't do it, and it just had to do with the show.
But again, it's from mine and Eric's perspective already.
Right.
We should have showed Coulson in it because we don't follow Agent of Shield. We
But
should.
I'm trying to think of when in the timeline, because in their travels back, he was already dead.
Right.
Or he was already injured by Loki at the point they returned to. They're already at the battle, and he got injured before the battle, so they didn't go back far enough.
Not what you saw,
Yeah.
right?
They didn't go back to the helicarrier.
The helicarrier and the Triskelion, yeah.
Any of the flashbacks, they could have showed. Any of them.
So, my overall viewpoint. Man, I'm gonna get haters on this one. I was vastly disappointed
Okay.
in Avengers Endgame. I actually kind of walked away. At first, I was angry. I'm gonna be honest. I walked away angry. I was mad. I was furious at the way they ended the movie. I have since kind of calmed down about the anger and thought about it a little more and be like, okay, I'm not like furious, but I'm still not happy. It did not do for me what I thought it was gonna do. It's funny the way you talked about it. You know, people wanted the comic book movie. I wanted a comic book movie. It's Avengers.
Yeah.
It's Endgame. It's, you know what I mean? Like, I wanted the comic book movie I was expecting to see, and it didn't deliver. It gave me a drama with some action thrown in, and that's not what I wanted. It's not what I was expecting. And then the part that infuriated me was how they handled Cap at the end. And I know there's a lot of people saying, oh, it was darling the way they handled Captain America. No, it wasn't. And I'll tell you why it wasn't. For two reasons. First off, they broke their own timeline rule.
Well, they've admitted that.
They broke their own rule.
They're saying there's more to it than you know. They've bluntly come out and said he shouldn't have been able to be sitting in that bench.
Correct.
Because it's a multiverse time thing. So then the Russos have even said, so how did he end up on that bench? And that's all they say. They know.
But
there's a plan there. At least it might be addressed in the Falcon and
I
Winter
get
Soldier
I get what you're
they're,
saying.
They're
but
saying something happened.
I go back to, and you've said it before, you shouldn't have to explain these things post-movie.
You shouldn't.
You know what I mean? They should be innate, and they should be in there.
Yes.
So, to me, when you broke your own timeline rule, you disappointed me.
Right.
Because you set up a rule. Like, if you wanted to do that, then don't have Hulk meet with the Sorcerer Supreme and have that. Like, if you'd have taken that whole scene out and just let them time travel, I would have been okay. Because
See, I would have been worse with that.
but because you set this like dichotomy of like this is how timelines work, right? This is how it's gonna be, and when you set that and then you broke the rule at the end, I'm kind of like, wait a minute, you just can't like all of a sudden be like, here's the rule, nope, you know, like I just that part I had a huge issue with, and then I thought about like while I'm watching the scene with him and Peggy, I thought about okay, let's assume for a minute you can break the rule. That means that Steve Rogers, just think about this logically for a minute. Steve Rogers went back in time. He had his dance with Peggy Carter. He lived his entire life watching everything go on around him. With the other Captain America, with the other Avengers.
No, not necessarily. Not in his multiverse. Things would have gone differently. There's no guarantee that everything happened the same because he's in a separate timeline. Once you diverge, things happen differently. Who knows what adventures he had?
But that's my point.
In that world, the Captain America may never have come out of the ice, and he was Captain America.
So because again, he has to be in that timeline to come back to the bench.
He got back something. They've said there's a story there that
but
they
again,
haven't told yet.
I'm saying if you put that aside, because that can't happen. But when you put that aside and we follow the Russo's rules, then he's in the same timeline. All these things are going on in the same timeline. You're telling me Steve Rogers would sit on the sideline?
I don't think they went on in his timeline. I think his timeline was different. He lived a different life, and then something happened where he was able to get back to our timeline.
Which brings me back to either that or Cap didn't happen in the timeline and there is no Avengers. So then how did they get there?
Because he's out of time and he's got the pin particles to come back.
But you get what I'm saying, right? Like there's this like dichotomy of like the two versions of Cap that you presented at the end are the potential possibilities of Captain America, neither of which are the Captain America I grew up with in the comic books. And that pisses me off to no end.
Which I've been trying to tell everybody, the whole MCU is the ultimate.
It's more like the Ultimate Universe.
The Ultimate Universe.
It totally is.
And
Because everything's completely different in the Ultimate Universe than it is in the regular comic.
but then why would you? Okay, so part of me is like, why would you pick that version of Marvel to follow that? If it's so different from everything else, why are you picking
Well, they're
that
pulling
version
from
of Marvel?
both. I mean, they pull Civil War comes from.
I was gonna say,
regular 616,
Civil War is
not the
regular,
Ultimate.
right?
So you got to remember that the movies are not the comics. You're not going to get the exact same stories. They're telling a cinematic universe.
And I get what you're saying, but what I'm saying is when you're presenting this to comic book fans, like myself, there's certain expectations I have, and you just destroyed one of my major expectations.
Yeah,
of
I
Steve
just don't
Rogers.
see it that way. I really don't.
You know, it sounds like him arguing with us about Star Wars.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know, but I do not like what they did with Captain America. I was pissed. I was really pissed. And the other part I didn't like about the whole movie was we had no explanation as to how the Soul Stone goes back.
Right. That's the other thing is he shows up, he goes back with it. He must have met the Red Skull.
He had to have, right? Like he
Yeah.
had to meet the Red
So
Skull.
I
What the
love
hell
that,
happens
I love
there?
that meme where it's like he always greets people and they're like, you know, so and so, son of Roger, so and so, son. And then Captain America shows up and they were like, Steve Rogers, son of a bitch, you're still alive.
Right? But that's that. Like I have like issues with that whole thing. Like the Soul Stone, there's no explanation of how that goes back, right? I don't know. And I know what they were trying to set up. They wanted the Falcon to get the shield. I kind of felt like they didn't think it through, and they didn't know what to do
I think
here.
they did.
And that was just too convenient
I think
to
they
be
did
able
think
to.
a lot through because they said they literally spent years thinking about all these things. I think they left the open holes to tell future stories that may not even have to involve these actors, but will end up wrapping around those. I think Endgame was extremely important going forward for the Marvel Cinematic Universe because I think it set up the multiverse.
It did.
And the multiverse is going to be important for the next phase, leading up to whatever the big next 10-year wrap-up is. I have a feeling it's going to be kind of like Crisis on Infinite Earths for DC when they're like, okay, multiverse gets crazier and crazier, and then you get this major paring down, and we'll lose tons of characters, and all these some stories we follow will get destroyed. I have a feeling that's their next build point, is to tell a multiverse story that eventually pares down to as the Russos have said, Secret Wars.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, I think the next one sets like this next level of, like you said, multiverse.
Yeah, because if they have to up it, think the next bad guy, the next Thanos is going to be Galactus.
It's got to be.
Because they're setting up the next big villain that will take time. But after Galactus, which Galactus won't be, I think, 10 years from now. I think he'll be like 6, or whatever. What's the big 10-year moment? That's the Beyond. That's a creature that comes in and says, the reality itself since the snap has never been right, and we need to pare it down, and a bunch of you have to go, and something like that. I think they're thinking those long-term things, and I think we're going to get just a multiverse. I mean, obviously, going into the Russos have said that Endgame was not the end of Phase 4. Homecoming is the end of Phase 4,
right.
and from the commercials we see,
there's
they're
a
already
mention
talking
of the
multiverse.
multiverse.
They're already
right.
talking about it, and they're already saying whether or not I believe it, that Mysterio's from another Earth
Right.
and whatever. But I think they're setting up this whole process. I think that's how we're going to get X-Men. I think that's how we're going to get Fantastic Four. I think they're going to have lived lives in other multiverses and merge with ours. Or there'll be all sorts of stuff they can do. So I'm interested in seeing where they go.
I just hope the Galactus arc, if they go that way, isn't rushed.
No, do it like Thanos. Take years. Set it up as this,
Just not before I die.
Damaged, destroyed planets and something that's going through ruining civilizations and grow it slowly.
Even if you just have hints of the Silver Surfer along the way.
Yep, that'll probably be the first thing we need.
Right, like just a hint.
The next Guardians movie.
Yeah.
Would be perfect.
Well, have you guys heard the rumor about the next Guardians movie?
No.
Well, it's the rumor is it's going to be heavily about Rocket, the raccoon, and his history and his story. And supposedly one of the bad guys is going to be big pink guy. I always forget his name. High Evolutionary.
Oh yeah, I could see. High Evolutionary is
And the rumor is that they're going to in one of the versions in the Marvel Universe, the High Evolutionary made Rocket as an experiment, which totally makes sense,
that's what
right?
He messes with light.
Right, to create new things, right? So it would totally make sense for the High Evolutionary to come along. And I kind of thought, you know what, if you're going to have another build-up, right, to a Galactus-type character, sure, High Evolutionary would be a great starting point to kind of so you get him and Kang and some of these other people that
Well,
are a
that's the
little
other
more
thing.
bigger, right?
People
like
are going to
as
say
you go.
that this whole messing with time thing has gotten the attention of Kang.
Well, yeah,
and that he'll be brought in.
that would totally make sense
You
to
know.
me. I was actually, and I guess that's the other thing I'm disappointed in at the very end. See, here's the weird thing. I liked the beginning of the movie. I liked the middle of the movie. I hated the end. That's where you
like
lost
the
me.
I love the fight. I'm sorry.
Parts of the fights I was.
Cap getting the hammer.
I was just about to say there were parts of the fight I
maybe the
loved.
best moment in the 10 years. Of
There
Marvel
were parts of
universe.
the fight I loved, and there were parts of the fight that actually pissed me off too. And I'll get back to that in a second. But to me, you didn't leave anything out there. Something. And I get there was the whole hammer thing at the end. You're Disney and Marvel. You're supposed to have an end credit scene. I'm sorry.
Well,
I'm sorry.
No,
and
they said I think I agree with
and
them.
they're saying, well, it's a wrap up. Well, no, it's
not.
not.
Only that, you had the character sign-offs at the end.
Yeah.
I feel like a teaser would almost have diminished from the finality of Endgame. And I think the
disagree.
teaser is better placed at the end of Homecoming, because that's going to not be as consequential of a movie. And at the end, a big teaser that says, because Homecoming is very tied to Endgame. It's about Tony Stark being dead. It's about the multiverse. So it's almost like the epilogue to Endgame, take it, and that's when you put the teaser in, when you wrap up the offshoot story.
But I think your problem now is, and again, I'm just thinking from studio perspectives here. Sony does not draw like Disney does, and so you're going to do that. Let's say you do it, but you're not going to get the audience, and suddenly people are going to not know. Do you get what I'm saying? Like,
I don't think Spider-Man: Homecoming is going to have any trouble drawing an audience.
I don't know. I don't think it's going to draw the audience
Well,
to
here's the
Endgame.
thing, it might,
Like,
well,
come
no,
on,
it won't.
Endgame's crazy.
It won't. Endgame's crazy, but I think you're going to get everyone who doesn't see it in the theater. You're going to get on the streaming and the home rental or
You think
whatever.
so?
Because it's going to come out within 4 or 5 months.
Yeah.
And you'll get that as being, they might not want to pay for it, but everyone wants to see it. So I think that's
Maybe.
if you don't see the numbers, it's simply going to be home viewing.
Maybe.
It's going to make up for it.
I just don't know if you have enough of a draw through Spider-Man to make that a thing
Well,
within the Marvel
I
universe.
mean, mention it, having Fury in it,
Right.
talking heavily about Tony Stark,
Yep.
and having that, all the people who are really into that father-son feel of Tony and Peter Parker,
Yeah.
really want to see what happens to Peter now. They're very into, I think those people are very into it. So I think it'll pull enough that it's a good place to do it. I do.
So going back to the fight scene,
Yeah.
the one thing that infuriated me about the fight scene, and it's going to sound bad, but I'm sorry.
Oh, I know what you're going to say already.
You did not need to have all the females come together to fight. It didn't need to be done. You were trying to make a statement, and you didn't need to make it. I mean, I like the strong female characters, don't get me wrong. Marvel's all about that. I'm all about it. But never once in the comics did you see all the females get together and go, hey, yeah, girl power. Sorry. It's in Marvel, how do I put it? It's massaged in. You know what I mean? Like, you see strong female characters and you see it, but it's not like in your face, and slap you in the face, like, look at all the females on the screen, yay. It's more of a like, wow, Captain Marvel's got all this power, and wow, Valkyrie's this great character. And to me, that's the cool thing in the Marvel comics is it's kind of massaged in there, and it's not slapped into your face. Falcon, I've been reading the old Captain Americas. He's so anti-segregation, right? He's so against all of that back in the 70s. But it was massaged in, and it was kind of like, if you really read the comics, they're making statements, but man, it wasn't like slap you in the face. It was more like, we're gonna make these statements slowly, and Cap's gonna slowly kind of get people to change their mind about the African American community and how it fits into the world and the culture and people. But that wasn't this, and it didn't fit. It didn't fit.
I agree that it was very obvious when they did it. It wasn't done smoothly, but at the same point, I didn't hate it because I kind of thought, well, if this one, it's like the girls all came together to help the one. It's like they're like, they're available and she's there, and it's like they all just joined together for that one moment. It didn't. I knew it was very obvious, but it didn't ruin it. I didn't hate it.
I don't know.
I thought the fight that they actually did was really cool, and Valkyrie was riding along, slicing the sides. Things, and I was like, I thought it was a great sequence. So I was over it pretty quickly.
Yeah, but like I said, I'd have been okay if they'd have done it in some other way, but it was just the way they pulled that together didn't work for me.
I actually liked it only for the fact that they weren't eye candy for a change.
Yeah,
I get what you're saying there. Yeah.
And I really liked when Captain Marvel fought Thanos, and at first he was able to beat her a little bit, and then she powered up a little extra, and he headbutts her, and she doesn't budge.
Yeah.
You know, and then he has to
And that's
resort
why I
to a
get-
stone to take
That's
her
why I
out.
get mad at some females who are like, well, that wasn't enough of a fight scene, and she didn't put up enough of a fight with him. I was kind of like, do you remember what happened
Yeah.
in Infinity War when Cap went toe to toe with him and it was like a flea? And
Well, 'cause listen,
then
okay,
you
so
get Captain
had,
Marvel who goes up against him and holds her own.
You
I mean,
had the
like,
two people who held themselves up the best were Captain Marvel, who
Yeah.
he had to resort to a stone to defeat, and Scarlet Witch, who
Right.
ripped off his armor and he had to call down
Right.
Hellfire just to distract enough, or he's
so you
gonna
can
get
right,
killed.
right.
And I think they're setting her up. People are saying that scene was a setup to lead into her being a super powerful character going into.
I
next
think so.
phase.
I think
It's like,
so.
like a threat character. Though.
Yeah.
Like, that's what they're leading towards.
What I mean, when you look at her in the comics, the crazy
that?
things she could do,
Yeah.
she's one of the.
They're really leading up to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the Marvel Avengers, like of one of any of the Avengers, there, if there's kind of like this rogue character, you're never quite sure how powerful they are. I've always said Scarlet Witch is one of those that like you never know, because like all of a sudden she'll come out of nowhere and be like, what? You're like, and she can do something she never could do before, and you're like, whoa.
Well, they've greatly limited her in the cinematic universe. I mean,
They
they
have.
started off giving her ability to like mess with people's minds, which they're now kind of ignored, and
Right.
ultimately since they turned her in just to a psychokinesis person, just
Right.
moving things with her mind. But they've already hinted that she does have those other abilities that are farther. So I wonder if those are going to start
Like creeping
coming
in.
back.
Yeah. So let's go back farther in the movie. Let's talk about some other stuff in the
Yeah,
movie
yeah.
that was going on that I actually did enjoy. First off, I know a lot of people rail on Scarlet Johansson, Black Widow, deciding to sacrifice herself over Hawkeye. And it's funny because everybody I've talked to has got different reasons for it. You know, some people were like, well, why sacrifice a female over a male? And I'm kind of like, well, that's going to the lowest factor. Who cares, right? Like,
I see it very simply.
I didn't see it like that.
She knew he had a family, she didn't.
See, that's the way I saw it. But I've got friends who are upset about that, and they're like, why should that be a factor? Like, just because he's got kids, he should be saved and she shouldn't? And I was kind of like,
that wasn't the universe's choice. That was her
right,
choice.
that was her decision,
She
right?
said, "You have kids, you have a family. I'm gonna."
Right, I'm gonna do this because you've got a family to worry about. But you know, and it's funny because
Right,
it's,
and I see where they're coming from. They're coming from that whole having a family isn't what values you. 'Cause we
Right.
get a lot, like me and my wife don't
I
have
was
kids,
just about to say,
and
like,
we get a lot of
yeah.
that. When you can have kids, you don't have a family. You're not really a family. Blah blah blah, and it angers us. It's like you don't mess with other people's lives,
Right.
And say that kids give you value.
Right.
So if they're coming at it from that point, they're coming at it from the wrong angle. Because it's not about whether or not kids gave him value. It's about what she valued. And she said, if you have a family with daughters and sons, they need you.
right.
And that was her choice.
Right.
And that's how I saw it.
And that's kind of the way I was seeing it too. And I guess it kind of angers me because when people say, well, the kids make your family, I'm like, no, you make your family. You know what I mean? Like it's funny because my family's my family, but my family's bigger than my
Yeah.
wife and my kids. You
Oh,
know,
yeah.
Gary's part of my
Family's-
family. You're
family's
part
not
of my
just blood.
family, right? Like the Falco clan is part of my family. I mean, there are lots of people out there that are part of my family of people that I know, and you know, to me, it's about. I don't know. I go back to the whole quote that home is where the heart is, right?
Yeah.
Like it's where your heart is and where people are and get you, and that's your family. People who get you, understand you, love you for who you are, and not for something they want you to be. And
Yeah, and think about it this
and-
way. She wasn't sacrificing necessarily for his kids.
right,
In a way, they're her family. Because
Right.
They called her Aunt Nat.
right,
She's obviously met that family many times before, you know, because she's been around with Clint for a while. When you care about the kids that much, you'd probably make the choice to say they need their dad.
part of me wonders if people would change their minds if the Black Widow movie had come out prior to this movie, because I think you would see. I think they're going to do it in the movie anyway. And correct me if I'm wrong if they don't, but I think they're going to show why Clint and Scarlett Johansson's character Black Widow are so
Yeah.
closely related to each other. I think they're going to run across each other. I think it's going to be all about their spy games and why she was a Russian spy, he's an American spy. They ran into each other, how they all connected. And I think that's going to be the point at which they go, oh, now I get the sacrifice.
Yeah.
Why she threw herself over
That's
the
the thing.
cliff.
People don't see them as close as they
As
clearly
they
are meant to be.
were in the comic books,
Yeah.
right? Like the way we know those characters to be. So you know, I just thought that was interesting. A lot of people were complaining about that.
I'm glad they didn't go the ultimate universe version of Black Widow. in the MCU.
Yeah.
She was
Wait,
she was the traitor.
Oh, was she really?
She was the reason that the Skrulls invaded. And
Oh,
she
really?
was like the human contact, and Tony Stark killed her.
Wow.
Yeah.
That would have been
because she was a traitor.
that would have been extreme.
Yeah,
Whoa.
it's very extreme in the comic, but that was that. They definitely went more of the 616 version.
Right,
of all
right.
the
As far as
series.
that's concerned, yeah.
But no, have you heard the newest about what actors appearing in Black Widow?
I remember,
David Harbour.
Okay, and what
Stranger
roles?
Things.
Right.
Hellboy.
Yeah.
Some people wonder if he's playing Ben Grimm.
Oh, I could see that. Yeah, he's got that.
But they're like, that timeline doesn't necessarily work if they go really far back with her, but it depends on how close they're telling the story. Like, obviously they could de-age her, they can do that, but how far back are they going to go?
I wonder if they do flashbacks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, have it a little more modern, closer to Endgame, and do flashbacks to tell her
I don't
story,
know,
and maybe Ben Grimm's just mentioned in a scene. You know what I mean? And I'm cool with that.
No one has said if he is for sure, but there's
Right.
suddenly this rumor.
But I could see it. He's got the build.
He could play it. His voice would be great. If he
Yeah.
did motion capture for the thing.
Oh my gosh.
He'd be great. Ben
He
Grimm.
would be great. As long as we don't get the foam version of Ben Grimm, we're good. What did you guys think of the Smart Hulk?
Loved it.
That Bruce Banner Smart Hulk?
Because they did such a good job with it, making it look like Mark Ruffalo. I saw Ruffalo Hulk
Oh, yeah.
the entire time.
Yeah.
And I loved some of his responses. Like, when he was trying to get time travel to work. Oh, by the way, they don't have to stick with old Cap.
Okay.
Think about what happened to Scott Lang. He didn't get pushed through time. They pushed time through him. They could do that to Steve Rogers.
What do you? Okay, I'm trying to understand.
He turned into a baby. He turned into an old man, Scott Lang.
Oh yeah.
They pushed time through him. Tony Stark
Right.
said that. You goofed up, like you did this instead of this, and you pushed time through him, not him through time.
Okay.
They could do that
With Cap, like DH him or
They
whatever.
could, they could push him time through him and turn him back into Steve Rogers.
Well, I didn't even think about that.
That's another opening that I thought about.
I didn't even think about
they
like
got that.
they could play with anything in that regard. I
They
mean, as
could.
far as like going into the
Which,
future.
if you said Steve Rogers would think to himself, "I'm giving up on life." What if he knew that was a possibility when he got back?
Right. Like he knew he could go back and
He
push
knew.
himself
He's like,
through
I can
time.
live a life, and then I could be young Steve
Ah.
Rogers again.
See, now that would work.
There's all
See,
sorts
now
of
that I
stuff.
would be okay
Yeah.
with, but then hint at that. You
Yeah,
know what I
no,
mean? Like,
I think that's a fun thing to just get to think about. It's like,
right? Yeah, I know.
why
what you're
have
saying.
that moment? Was it just a joke?
Right.
Or was there more?
Was it
to
real?
Yeah.
Right.
So, I for the most part really liked Mark Ruffalo's Hulk. I liked that we he never like transformed back and forth. They stuck with
Right.
the
He
Hulk
stuck with
character
Hulk
for most of
character.
it.
Right.
And you just saw him when the Ancient One punched him out, like she
Right.
did to Benedict Cumberbatch. And but I liked his performance. The only thing I didn't like, and a lot of people said this, is he didn't get the Hulk Thanos round 2 that people wanted him to. Now he was a smart Hulk fight and get some good licks in to make up.
I almost liked not having it though.
Yeah.
I think it was better without it, to be honest with you.
And I liked like they did the tribute to Secret Wars.
Yep.
The cover where he held the mountain up, he's holding up all the Avengers base from
Right.
crushing people. I liked that he was the one who did the snap. And it kind of worked really, really in their favor because think about it. Thor could have done it, but Thor's in a bad place mentally.
Right.
The Hulk has the physicality and he has the genius smarts to do the mathematics and the things necessary to really try and concentrate on this. So I think Smart Hulk was 100% required to undo the snap and survive it. He was about the only character who could snap and survive through
Right.
the rest of the movie. So I liked how they set all that up. I didn't even think about it until they got there. I'm like, of course they'll let him snap. I'm like,
Right.
who else would do it? So I thought the snap wouldn't happen until the very end of the movie. And the fact
Right,
that
I
it was
kinda
on
thought that
early,
too, yeah.
I kind of thought that was a neat little moment.
Yeah.
I liked Smart Hulk. For the most part, I thought it was pretty cool.
What do you guys think of Tony coming back and making his own gauntlet at the end and doing the ultimate sacrifice and snapping and undoing and redoing or whatever you want to call it? And what did you think of the sacrifice of Tony Stark? Did it live up to the expectation there of Tony Stark making that sacrifice?
I didn't like it because it was too predictable.
Yeah, by that point in the story, I kind of agree with you. It was a little predictable.
Because Downey Jr. said this is the last episode, the last
Yeah.
Iron Man, Tony Stark role, and
People are already saying how he's coming back though.
and it's
Have you heard?
yeah,
No, how?
but it just to me.
All right, hang on. Time out. How? Because now I'm
He
curious.
said, "This is my
Sorry,
last
Gary, we'll get
time
back to you.
playing Tony Stark and Iron Man."
Okay.
But what about Spider-Man? in his suit getting a new AI.
Oh, it's Tony
I
Stark.
think Tony's going to gift it to him at the end of Homecoming, and it's going to be Tony's voice.
Oh, it's the AI inside of Spider-Man. Okay, I get it. Sorry, Gary. Go ahead. I did not hear that one. No.
No, that's all right. I'm done.
Sorry, I interrupted. I didn't mean to. I'm sorry.
I'm done.
You done? Yep. Okay. So how about Thor? What did you guys think of Thor in this movie? There were actually some people that were irate at Thor in this movie, the fact that he became Fat Thor. What did you guys think of that?
It's perfect.
I gotta agree
Why
with
was it
Gary. I
perfect?
really did
Huh?
too.
Why was it perfect?
He had the chance to kill Thanos, and he didn't do it. And this is his way of atoning for it.
I think more of like, and maybe it's just me and the way I react to things. He got depressed.
Yeah.
He
that's what I
gave
mean.
up on life. He started drinking and eating and saying like, screw it. And like, I've done that before. I hate to say it. This is an example of a time in my life where I've kind of gone that direction. And it's kind of like, I get it. Like when you get depressed like that, there's no turning you around. And I understood it.
Some people say it was a very accurate representation of depression.
Yeah, I really think it is. Yeah, and his redemption is, I think, an accurate representation of people who finally come out of depression and the way they feel. You know what I mean? Like the way he felt coming out of it, I think, is how people feel when they come out of depression.
And I like the fact that Chris Hemsworth said that I'm going to stay the Fat Thor for the whole movie.
Right.
They were originally going to make him become skinny again.
Yeah, they were gonna make him ripped for the
Yeah.
for the battle, and then at the end they were actually gonna make him like skinny, like he had been emaciated, and like had used all his power to get through the battle. That's the rumor that I had heard about what they were gonna do with Chris Hemsworth, and he insisted, no, leave it as like the overweight Thor all the way through, and I think it worked better.
Yeah.
I really do think it worked better.
What did you think of? How was that moment when he put both hands up and boom, catches
I
Stormbreaker and then Mjolnir?
I was kind of like, yes, like I just to me that I thought was a better moment than the Cap moment. I mean, I love the Cap moment. Don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
but I actually loved seeing Thor grab both Mjolnir and, I mean, just having both of them in his hand. Just I don't know. It just was a really cool moment.
The part I liked better was when Cap was holding Stormbreaker and
Oh,
was using it, and Thor was using Mjolnir, and he like looked at Cap and then tossed it in the hand.
Oh, and they switch. Yeah, yeah.
Give me the big one. You take
Yeah,
the
yeah, you take the little one. Yeah, no, I have to admit that was kind of a funny scene too.
Did you have a problem going back to the gauntlet moment
Okay.
with Tony? With the ease with which he was able to get the stones out of Thanos' gauntlet and into his.
Yeah, it was a little convenient.
I don't know.
Here's the thing, it wasn't Thanos' gauntlet. It was his that he built that had gotten big for the Hulk.
Right.
I really think Tony Stark would have put a quick eject mechanism in there to get those stones out in case something went sideways real fast.
Oh, I get what you're
and
saying.
I think that's what he did. Is he popped it and just they just magnetically or whatever right into his hand.
Right.
And then they formed because he had the power. So I think he would plan a
You think you
fail-safe
already planned a failsafe already built in?
into because it was his gauntlet. If it was the regular gauntlet, I would have had a big problem with it.
Well,
Because
maybe.
like, how the heck do you get him out?
All right, so here's one to think about. What if by that point Strange had told Tony, "Here's what you have to do: build
Right.
the failsafe in." Because remember, he looked at Tony and go, "Now, now's the time."
But when would he have told him? Because he never told him what happened in the future before he vanished, and he wasn't back until the fight.
But we don't know that there wasn't a side conversation somewhere. Do you get what I'm saying?
Right.
That he could have
On Titan.
on Titan
Yeah.
told him before everything goes back in time and gets all wonky and weird. You know what I mean? Like, why not? Why not tell him if you know that's the one way?
Okay, why not put a failsafe in it that if Thanos did get it, it just crushed his hand.
Right. I don't know.
I don't know. I just.
You know, just
But remember, of all he saw 10 million ways, and there's only one in which
Oh,
they win,
still.
and that's what I'm saying. Like,
well, Tony didn't see that though. Doc Strange did.
but that's what I'm saying. Like, if
And-
Strange let that out to Tony,
Strange said, "If I tell you, it will not happen."
Yeah.
no, I get that, but
So he didn't tell him
but they've broken their own rules. I'm like,
But you
why
don't
not
know.
break that rule too?
because where did they win?
I just think it's more like it's more likely that Tony would have built something in to get
Right.
the stones out fast.
Remember,
Something
Tony
like
never
that.
trusted anybody. He never
Right.
trusted Hulk. That's why we
He
have
didn't trust
Hulkbuster
S.H.I.E.L.D..
armor.
He
He
took
didn't
all
trust
their-
Shield, right? He
yeah.
took all their tech. So it's like everybody he works with, he doesn't trust them anyway. He's ready to backstab them at any moment. Hammer, Jason Hammer, he didn't trust him. You know what I mean? He's always got fail-safes written. It makes sense for him to have a fail-safe put into this place. It did make sense.
But going back to Fat Thor.
Right.
Have you heard the newest rumor now about the Fortnite scene?
No.
People are saying there's a petition, I think, or there's just a lot of people saying it, that they want what was it, Noob Master 69 or whatever was the person that they argued with online.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah.
To be Deadpool. He was the one trolling him playing.
That would be awesome.
At some point in a Deadpool movie, they'll cut to a shot of him playing Fortnite,
and he's playing as Noob
Master.
That would be awesome. Now, to address that, here's the interesting thing: Disney has now said it's in a statement, and I'll look it up later and show you guys. They have admitted that Deadpool will not cross into the current MCU. Not the current Deadpool, not the way he is. And I was just kind of like, aw, part of me was just like, it would have been so cool. See, like that was the end scene I wanted to see. I wanted to see Deadpool walk on, and like everything's over, and have him go, aw, I missed it again, son of a bitch, or something like that, and just be like, that would have been great. That's all you had to do for me.
I feel like it would have been so out of tone with the rest of the movie, though.
But that would have been a great part of it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it just would have been out of tone on purpose. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know that, like,
a
lot of people, like...
a lot of things.
I know. I'll tell you what my problem was. When you walk away from the movie, it ends on such a sad note.
Mm-hmm.
Scarlet Witch is dead.
Oh my gosh.
Scarlett Johansson. Scarlett Johansson, Black Widow is dead. Stark's dead. Cap's gone. It's just such a downer.
Mm-hmm.
When, and then I'm trying to remind myself when we walked out, because Gary, I think, saw I was kind of like, I don't know, I was feeling down walking out of the theater. And I'm in the truck going, but there's more. Like, I know there's more. But, like, part of me was just like, this is not the way to end something when there's more. I don't know. You needed to do something just a little bit to lift my spirits on the way out the door. And doing a tink-tink was not enough.
Right.
I needed something to lift my spirits just a little bit.
I think that's what it's going to be. I think that's what Homecoming's for. I think Homecoming is literally the uplift after the Endgame.
I get what you're saying.
Just like Ant-Man and the Wasp was kind of the uplift in the summer after Infinity War.
Yeah, I guess it's true.
And it had the tag that really led into Infinity War, big time.
Here's the stupid thing, and I'm ready for this one because I was so angry with Endgame. I'm like not ready to watch Spider-Man now. Like I don't want to. I'm almost at the point right now where I don't know if I want to go see it in the theater and I'm normally like a Marvel movie's coming out. I gotta go see it. And for the first time, I was like, so you want to go see the Spider-Man movie? I'm like, I don't know. And she just looked at me. She goes, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, I got so upset at Endgame. I don't know if I want to go see what's gonna happen in the Spider-Man movie. I'm like, now it's like everything's off. Everything's off the table. It feels so finalized and like, well, you closed that book, and I just kind of feel like you haven't given me anything to want to go see something else. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I know the Guardians movie 3 is coming out, and like I told you, we've heard about the one character. They have said that you've discussed it, Gary, that Beta Ray Bill is going to show up in Guardians 3. They've admitted.
Which makes sense keeping Thor with them.
And that's that. When Thor left, I kind of went, and I looked at Tara and I go, well, that opens up Beta Ray Bill, because now Stormbreaker could totally be Beta Ray Bill's, and the Hammer could stay with Thor, and now you get both, and everybody's happy, right? Because now
apparently
Stormbreaker's
Beta Ray Bill's already in the universe because his statue was in Ragnarok.
But I mean, he has to exist, right?
Yeah.
But he doesn't have the power yet. He hasn't been imbued and all that kind of crazy stuff. What I'm saying is,
actually, I think he did. I think he already has it.
You think he already has what?
The power of Thor and everything.
Oh, you do think he's already got it?
That was Beta Ray Bill. That statue was Beta Ray Bill.
Okay.
That's Thor.
Right.
What I'm saying now is you've got the two weapons, and Thor can give one up to
No, you don't.
Beta Ray Bill. Why don't you?
Cap took the hammer back in time with him.
Did he?
Yes.
I'm trying to remember if he was standing there with it, was he?
Yes.
So Thor's only got Stormbreaker.
Yes. Because they had to put it back.
Yeah. Well, they had to. Yeah, that's true. Or that timeline would have gone really off kilter if Thor didn't have a hammer.
Yeah, it's true.
He would have to drop that back off.
Yeah, I guess I didn't think about that. That would have to happen.
Which when Thor took it, I first thought to myself, what is he doing? He knows what he's going to do, though. And then I thought to myself, oh, it's just like an Infinity Stone.
Right.
He can go use it as long as he takes it back.
So, all right. So, Yeah. I mean, like that was my other issue with the ending. What about the beginning of the movie? What did you guys think of the scenario with Thanos at the beginning, where like the snaps happen, he's on Titan B.
They surprised the heck out of me with that opening.
And they come at him and they basically kill him.
Yeah, I mean the first 20 minutes of that movie, I had no idea what to expect. I'm like,
right.
They're already with Captain Marvel. They're already taken off. They're already going out into space. They're already going to find him. It's like Iron Man's not with him. What's going? They're there. They cut his hand off already. Holy crap! It's like. Then he takes the head off, and I went for the head, and then he walks away, and everything gets blurry really slowly.
Right.
And I very specifically noticed that transition. As Thor walked away after killing Thanos, it got blurry super slowly, and then faded to black. And then those words came up 5 years later.
Right.
And you heard it in our audience. Someone went, "Are you effing kidding me?" or something.
Yeah,
Like just they were shocked.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that threw me for a loop because I didn't expect that.
Yeah, I wasn't either, and I remember watching that thinking that can't be right. Like it just can't. That's too easy. Like I don't know. All I can think of was every Star Wars movie where something easy happens. You go, okay, hang on a minute. There's something else behind that because that was just too easy and that happened way too quickly. And I agree. That was like a moment where I was kind of like, wow, okay, we're really finalizing that scene right there, and yeah, I don't know. I almost think they did it like that to throw people off on purpose. You know what I mean? Like it, yeah. So what did you think of that first 20-minute segment, Gary? Was that?
That was one of those yes moments.
I was kind of glad that Thor did what he
yeah,
did, right? Taking head off and going for the head, and yeah, I was kind of like, yeah, I was kind of surprised nobody in our theater went yes,
Everyone was in shock.
Everybody was in shock a little bit, but I was waiting for the one person went yeah, that's how you do it, and then I was just kind of like, and then I was sitting there going, what do you do with the rest of the movie? Like, how do you do that? Like that seemed crazy mad.
Yeah, somehow. Okay, we can go home now.
Right? Like I was kind of like, wow, this is gonna be the shortest movie ever. I thought they said it was gonna be 3 hours long. What's going on?
What did you guys think of the funeral scene for Tony Stark?
I liked it. I thought it was a nice touch. I thought it was a nice tribute to Tony.
Mm-hmm.
I liked the touch of I couldn't figure out who the one guy was that was standing there. And then you go home and you go online with an instant on Google, you find out it's the kid from Iron Man 2, and you go or 3, and you go, oh, like
it totally looked like freaking Quicksilver to me.
What's
his name?
I had a couple theories about who it was.
The actor, yeah, it looked like him though. I'm like, why is he there?
Well, I thought it was either it was him. I thought maybe it was Kilgore, right? No, the guy, the Whiplash. He was let out of jail again, right?
He was killed at the end of Iron Man 2. They killed him.
But I thought maybe somehow he came. You know what I mean? Like it's Marvel. You never know.
The stamp brought him back to life.
Right? Maybe like it reversed something. I don't know. I was trying to figure out like he had long hair, and that was the part that was throwing me off. And I was kind of like, what?
When I first saw him, I'm like, why is Edward Cullen in it?
I like the funeral. Did you hear that the way they did the funeral, they told all the actors coming that they were dressed up, they're coming for a wedding.
No, I didn't hear
They
that.
told to keep it secret. They told all the actors they were filming a wedding. They all showed up because they only filmed them for like a day and a half.
Right, something like for that scene.
And they said you're coming for a wedding, and when they got there, they told them what was really going on, and so they got like a more accurate. All of them had to just be like.
Did you hear that there was supposed to be a scene in between that was supposed to star the girl from 13 Reasons Why?
Yeah.
That she was supposed to be his daughter that was older, and she was telling him to let go, that it was okay.
Was it in the Soul Stone type thing? Or
yeah, he was supposed to go into like the Soul Stone area just before he died, and she basically tells him it's okay, you can let go. I forgive you. You can die, basically, And it was funny because they said, well, it didn't test well with test audiences, and I was kind of like, what test audience? Like, what test audience are they using? Because I thought that actually might have helped me buy that scene a little more. You know what I mean? And buy the anguish behind it. You know what I mean? And the
I
fact
thought
that his
Pepper
daughter
did a pretty good job with that.
I thought she did too, but
what was her line? We're safe now.
We're safe now.
Because his whole thing has always been.
Yeah, we're okay now. Yeah, and we're safe. And I agree. Pepper did it okay, but I could see where having his daughter tell him would have been a really kind of cool moment and a nice send off. I don't know. But I know what happened with the test audience. They couldn't connect that that character would have been his daughter older, and that was really the issue that people were having in the test film.
If they said it's okay, Daddy, or something like that, I think they would have
Right.
understood it then.
Right, I agree with you. Yeah. So I thought I liked that scene. I thought that the way they handled the funeral was good. I thought the way they handled, that's the other thing too people were upset about, that they didn't have a funeral for the Black Widow. And were you guys okay with that? I mean, like,
Well, who are you going to make?
She had
right? Like,
well, all of
that's
them heroes.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, part of me is like, isn't Tony's funeral also Black Widow's funeral? Like,
Well, is that what
it's one
Scarlet
and the
Witch?
same, right?
I felt like that's what Scarlet Witch was talking about when she said they
Right.
really succeeded or whatever.
Right.
They mentioned two, and some people said, well, who's she talking about? Is she talking about Vision? Is she talking about Quicksilver? And no, they're talking about.
I think she was talking about all of them.
Yeah.
Like, they all know we accomplished our goal. And I just thought Scarlett Johansson's character kind of got her own moment, even though she didn't per se have a funeral
Right.
specifically to her. But you're right, Gary. That's the weird thing. I don't think a lot of people understand. Again, when you don't have the character's backstory yet, which
Right.
we have not been given. I
And-
mean, I know it, but then she's got no family. She's got nothing. She came from nowhere.
And we're talking Marvel.
Right.
No body, no death.
I agree with you there. So my question still is Gamora alive?
Yes.
She stayed in our new universe. She's been pulled through, so she's
You
now.
think she's okay?
She missed 5-6 years or whatever.
Right.
Her and Quill are not boyfriend girlfriend.
She doesn't
Right.
know them the way. That's going to be part of the plot of, I think,
The next Guardians.
is that they're going to find her and she's doesn't know them. She might be their enemy.
Right. And what about, is it possible the Black Widow's still alive?
I think so, yeah.
I
I
don't know.
really do.
And that's where I'm saying, like, without
They
them,
didn't pull her through time though.
but without them showing how the Soul Stone got back, did bringing the Soul Stone back relaunch the Black Widow into the universe? Do you get what I'm saying? Like,
The Russos have said that there's no take back on the Soul Stone. A Soul Stone take, even if there's reset, you can get it back.
Right.
The Soul's taken, and there's no give backs on that. That's what
Okay.
they said.
well, then Gamora shouldn't be able to come back either, though.
But they brought her back before she was taken.
But you get what I'm saying, right? Like,
I agree.
if they're saying the
That's
Soul
what I'm
Stone
saying.
can't give back, then so yet again, it's the timeline thing again. Like,
Like I
if you
said.
make a rule, you got to follow it.
Well, like I said, it's Marvel. No body,
Right.
no death.
I agree with you. It's like Star Wars. It's all like Star Wars.
Star
Same
Wars
thing.
Star Wars is Disney owned, so.
Yep, it's all No, I totally get it. Is there any part of like this particular movie that was like your ultimate favorite part of the movie? Like, what was your ultimate favorite part of Endgame?
Ultimate favorite part.
Yeah, like what was the one part that like totally memorable for you, and you're like, yeah, I liked that. That was cool.
On the left.
Okay.
When I heard his voice and he said that line, and then we just started getting introduction after introduction after introduction, and arrival after arrival after arrival.
Yeah.
I was like, someone worded it, and I agreed with him. It was like a George Perez drawn comic come to life.
Yep.
It was just so many characters. It was awesome. Even Howard the Duck was there.
Yes, I did hear somewhere on there. Like, if I go back, you'll see Howard the Duck in the scene. Was there any moment for you, Gary, that like totally stuck out?
I don't think so, really.
Here's the one that, now that I know the significance of it, really, I mean, it caught my eye, or caught my ear, I should say, when I was watching it. I love you 3,000 times.
That's what his daughter really says to him, Robert Downey Jr. I love you 3000.
You know what I love you 3,000 really means, right?
What?
If you add up all the total hours that you would have sat and watched all our Marvel movies all together, it's 3,000 hours.
There's only 22 movies. Each movie's like 2.5, 3
Or
hours.
3,000 minutes, excuse me. So if you multiply it out,
So
it's the
much.
exact, and somebody put the mathematics online. It was on a meme, and it's the exact number of minutes by that moment in the Marvel films that you would have watched a Marvel film. So to know the significance of that, and the Russo brothers have come out and said, yes, that's true.
But
That's why they put that in there. I love you,
But if
3,000.
they didn't use Common Core math, it doesn't exist.
True, Gary. But yeah, believe it or not, that is 3,000. That's where 3,000 came from, and I thought that was a kind of a cool nod to the fans. I love you 3,000 because it was 3,000 minutes you sat and watched the film. I thought that was kind of a cool little like. I love Tony, but I also love you, the fans, 3,000, which is cool. I thought that was just kind of a nice nod. It grabbed my attention. I don't know why. Well, a lot of it is because my oldest daughter, Heather, loves this story. When we were younger, she used to say I loved you, and I'd say I love you more. And she'd be like, I love you more, I love you more. Well, one time, my oldest daughter, because she's a smart ass, and she does this stuff to me all the time, I looked at her, and she was only like 3, 4, I don't remember how old she was, and I said, I love you, and she looked at me, and she goes, I love you 2 more. Just to kind of, like, beat me to it, and I was kind of like, it grabbed my attention. I was like, did she just say what I think she said? And Heather said, yeah, she said what you think. So she, like, beat me to the punch, and that I love you 3,000 was like, I love you 2 more, and it just kind of grabbed my attention. Yeah. Okay. So I think those are our thoughts on Avengers Endgame. Should we rate it?
There's tons we didn't cover.
Right. I mean, we could go on and on for hours, and I don't want to, bore everybody. But like, I think we've gotten the major points here. Do you guys want to rate it?
Sure.
So on a 0, don't bother, 10, must see. What do you guys think? What scale would you put it on? Maybe want to go first?
See, when you say it that way, and I've always said this, how important is it versus how much I enjoyed it are 2 different numbers.
All right, so
on a case of a must-see, it's a 10 because it wraps up so much stuff and it ends so many storylines and it, it's the penultimate. In the case of how much I enjoyed it, it's more like 7.5.
Okay.
Maybe an 8, but it's pretty high up. But it definitely was paced different than I expected, and I do think that entertainment-wise, Infinity War was more entertaining. But importance-wise, I think this sucker was a 10.
It's really weird that you said it like that because I was going to say too, like entertainment-wise, it's lower for me. It entertained me less. I want to say it's like a 6 entertainment-wise for me. It missed some points, major points for me. On the I gotta go see it thing, yeah, I agree with you. It's a 10 because after you see Infinity War, you have to wrap it up. You can't just leave it at the end of Infinity War and be like, well, the snap happened. No, you got to see the ending of it. I just wish it was a little more dramatic or something. There was a broader shift in everything than what Infinity War saw. I guess that's my big thing. Gary, what would you rate it?
I give it a 6.
Okay. Overall, you're talking about?
Yep.
Okay.
And like you guys said, 10 for must see. So
right.
So that's the end of this.
But the entertainment, it was a 6 for you.
Yep.
It's going to lead. It's important to see because it is going to tie into so much that comes in the future. But I think Infinity War was the more entertaining of the 2.
Hey, I'll give you that. Absolutely. Okay, so with all that said,
but before we go on, what do you want to see in the next
Avengers film?
Next phase.
Next phase?
Yeah. I mean, I know they have tentative ideas of what they want to put out.
Well, I really want to see the multiverse take off. I want to see them explore everything. Other realms. We've stayed away from magic quite a bit, right? Like, because Doctor Strange is the only kind of magic we've seen. I'd love to see them explore more of that kind of the side of Marvel. I would love to see them explore parts of the Spider-Verse. And I know you're not a Spider-Man fan, but you can't have the multiverse without the Spider-Verse in that somewhere. You know what I mean? I wouldn't mind them exploring that a little bit. To me, space has got to be a huge part of the next. I mean, and it would all tie in. Like, if you explore space, then the Fantastic Four happens. If you explore space, then you start getting into things like Beta Ray Bill and some of these other characters that we know should be in the Marvel Universe but aren't. If you explore space, you can start explaining weird characters like MODOK. You know what I mean? Like, you can really start getting into odd stuff.
They're doing a MODOK.
Are they really?
I think it's animated on Disney.
Okay.
And Patton Oswalt is doing the voice of MODOK.
Really?
Yes.
I can see him pulling that off, though.
He keeps saying, I saw an interview with him, he says, I keep trying to do a voice. And they're like, no, just do it yourself.
Right.
And he goes, I don't want my voice to be what that looks like, should sound like. I don't want that. I want to do a voice.
I have to admit, I wouldn't want to be tied to the look of that character.
Every time they say to him, no, your regular voice is fine, he's like, it shouldn't be.
No. So I kind of like that idea. I'm looking forward to more Skrulls. I'm looking forward to more, all of that stuff. The Skrull and what's the opposite side of the Skrulls? Kree. Thank you. The Skrull and Krees. I want to see more of that. I just want to see that galactic thing. I mean, I like the idea of the Eternals. I like the idea of getting into more of the Guardians.
Right.
Yeah, why not?
Well, the
Explore
Eternals
it.
is something that they already had
Right, they're right.
in the works or
Right.
in plan.
But that's to me would be what I would want to see.
What about you, Larry?
I feel like, and I've said this before, I think what I want to see most is what I predict to be at the end of Spider-Man Homecoming, which is they've teased the selling of the Avengers Tower in the first Spider-Man. They are clearly showing it being constructed as we saw in the stills of the second one.
Right.
I feel like the teaser I want, it's all I need to see for now to have hope for the future movies, is the Spider-Man Homecoming ends with shots of the construction going on, panning up the building, hearing noise, people welding, you get to the top, someone goes, okay, let's bring it down, it's the Avengers A, and it's hooked, and they pull it, and as it's being moved, there's a floor behind it.
Yeah.
And that comes down, cut, and I'm just like, I'm ready.
Right. What about you, Gary?
Well, the banging at the end of Endgame.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks it's Tony Stark making his armor.
Yeah.
But it's the Baxter building instead.
They
It says
keep-
Baxter on it
Right.
instead of Ford.
Right. But
Yeah.
Baxter's probably what they'll say instead of
Yeah.
Forks. They're not the
Yeah.
fantastic Four
Right.
yet. We probably still need them.
I would like to see that. I want to see the Shi'ar Empire,
Oh yeah, that'd be cool.
and
That'd be
tie in with her space stuff and all that.
and it would be a good way to get into the X-Men because you
Yes.
could use the Shi'ar to pull the X-Men into
Right.
the universe. Yeah.
I mean, everyone I think I wanted, even though it would now that I've seen the movies, thematically it wouldn't fit. I wanted a brief moment where reality was being messed with, and they threw a Hugh Jackman Wolverine in.
Right. Yeah.
Just because reality was flipping and
Yeah.
things happened.
I'll tell you why I think they
I
stayed
wanted-
away from the whole X-Men thing, and
Yeah.
I think I figured it out. This Dark Phoenix movie is still coming out.
Yeah.
And I think they really just want to let that
Play out.
play out and wrap up because it is, from my understanding, the whole movie is a complete wrap up. And I think they want to let that dog lie for like a couple years.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, like I don't think they want to, because I don't think they want to accidentally tie anything into that at all, because that whole series has been so up and down. You know, parts of it people love, parts of it people hate. And they don't want to be associated with that at all. I think Disney's just trying to they don't want to be the Bryan Singer one associated with them. I don't think they want the current one associated with them. So they're just kind of let that dog die and lie for a couple of years.
And we'll have an exciting recasting when we get some cool people to play.
Right, and I think you're gonna see that with that, Daredevil and Iron Fist and all of that. I think that's why they're doing what they're doing. Let some of these things just kind of die out. Let people forget for a while that those things were out there, to bring them back in a more dramatic
people
way.
forget pretty quickly nowadays. There's
They
such
do.
a fast turnover for things.
Yeah.
I think within 2 years of
Yeah, I
nothing
agree
about
with
any
you.
of those things, and people are reset to
Yep.
get something new.
Well, once they bring the X-Men into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I want to see an Exiles
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
and a What If.
Well, they're doing what if they're already doing it. As
There's a
series.
TV series.
That's
Yeah.
on Disney Plus.
Don't want to
It's
see.
gonna
I want
have
to see
Disney
that in the big screen.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. So. Okay, so those are our thoughts on all sorts of topics, including Peter Mayhew's passing, the Vanity Fair issue about Star Wars, and of course Avengers Endgame. So we're gonna be back in just a little bit. We're gonna talk about the latest episode of Star Wars Resistance. Anybody else gotta go use the restroom? I gotta go use it myself. All right, give me a sec, guys. Should I pause the video? I'll let it roll.
Pause it.
Pause it? I don't know if I can.
Luke's gonna sit here staring at the back of my head.
We'll let it go.
Okay.
It's okay.
And we'll talk about politics.
Your ad
Yeah,
here.
anything but politics. I'll be right back.
Right here. Let's do some ad.
Your ad here. That was so.
Here we go. They owe me a lot of money. My wife is, for you guys in video land, turns out I'm going to see the new Godzilla movie on Sunday. And my wife, I've seen the first one, but she hasn't, so she was going to watch it tonight because we have it on Blu-ray. But I forgot that my Xbox I have a 360 and it doesn't play Blu-rays, it only plays DVDs. She was trying to get it to play in there, wouldn't read. And my Blu-ray player that's separate, the remote died. So we don't know if there's going to be able to play the movie without a remote. So she's texting me asking me technical questions, and I'm trying to respond to them. And she just said, nope, won't play, damn it. think it's not playing. I think it's just sitting on the home screen waiting for a remote to trigger it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you let it sit there long enough, it might autoplay. I'll tell that
It
version.
might.
No, because you know how most of those go, they just keep recycling over and over again the thing.
Yeah. That's the help screen for the Dish Network.
Too many notifications. I'm having more and more trouble keeping up with stuff.
So I heard Rotten Tomatoes is not the go-by place anymore.
What is?
They're now like, I want to say they sold out and became corporate.
Oh, Rotten Tomatoes?
Yeah.
Well, I heard what they were trying to do to get their reviews more accurate with all the review bombs they've been having was to come up with a verified system. Like if I don't know if it would tie to Fandango or whatever, but
Right.
if when you bought your tickets or something, you'd be allowed to review a movie. But it was supposed to verify.
Well, they have something that you can scan with your phone or something, or a 3-digit number or something off your ticket you put in there.
Yeah, probably something like that.
You know, but they're trashing Godzilla
I heard the critics were,
big time.
yeah.
And
Really?
Rotten Tomatoes is one of them.
What are they trashing Godzilla?
Yeah.
Why?
It's a big monster movie.
Well, the reviews I've been hearing from a lot of
That's kind of the
characters are the monster battles are epic, and the human characters are just the plot line's ridiculous.
Have you watched any
I know,
Godzilla
and
movie
that's
ever?
as long as you go in expecting that, it's like, okay.
Like, yeah, like all I can think of is MST3K. You know, what's the one?
I love the Gamera one when they're
Gamera, that's the one I'm thinking of.
There's
Yeah.
the scene where they're talking about buying fish, and then at one point Crow just goes, "What has this got to do with anything?"
No, my favorite is like the second or third Gamera film. They're like, oh look, it's Gamera, and everybody goes, watch, the kid will say Gamera. And 3 seconds later, the kid goes Gamera. And they're like, oh my god, we can predict the movies now.
Well, one of the Showtime channels last night was showing all the different big monster movies.
Oh, were they really?
It was War of the Gargantuans.
I wish I would have seen that.
Gamera's one of them. Destroy All Monsters. Even the one with the stupid little kid and little guy,
horrible one,
yeah,
yeah.
little Godzilla singer.
Oh yeah.
And it was like all night they were showing all these movies.
Well, that's why I gotta drag Tara to go see Godzilla, because she watched Mecha Godzilla with me, and I'm like, if you can survive Mecha Godzilla, you pretty much can survive any of the Godzilla films.
They showed the original King Kong,
Oh my gosh.
and they showed the '78 King Kong.
Mhm.
So I was like, oh, that was pretty good. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, that's a great run.
King Kong versus Godzilla. Was
Classic.
also there,
Classic.
Which you don't see pretty much anymore.
No.
Yeah, why?
And
I don't.
it-
Copyrights.
And
Really, is that what it is?
And the one I saw was one where Kong.
Oh
Now,
yeah.
How does it differ at the end? Because both times I saw it, you don't see Godzilla and Kong swims away.
Yes.
Right.
That's the official Kong winning.
Yes.
Right.
How does it change when Godzilla wins?
You see Godzilla.
Swimming away.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, and Kong's licking his wounds.
Oh, you don't
You
see
don't
Kong
see
at
Kong.
all.
You assume
You
he's
see
dead.
Kong.
under-
Oh, okay.
That's why the Godzilla version or the Kong version, you assume Godzilla's dead underwater and Kong's leaving. They just
Oh,
reverse
okay,
it.
they reverse
Godzilla's
it.
swimming away and you don't see Kong.
Oh, okay. All right. Well.
Which is funny because we're talking about giant monster movies. That ties in with tonight's episode of
Yeah, giant monsters on.
Well, even more so.
Yeah.
Did you ever see Gorgo? When they captured the little one and the mom comes looking for it.
Oh yeah,
This is
yeah.
exactly the
Exact same
thing.
storyline. Yeah, you're right. Let me pull up the notes for this one real
I
quick.
still want to know what it has to do with Star Wars.
It doesn't. That's the problem. Bibo. There we go. All right, you ready? This is episode of what? Episode 11. Okay. Are you ready? All right, great.
Yeah.
Hey folks, welcome back to this episode of Star Reverse. Hi folks, welcome back to this episode of the GalaxyCast as we talk about Star Wars Resistance Season 1, Episode 11, titled Bibo, or as Gary likes to call it, we don't care-o. So I love the, in my show notes here, you'll see it, they pretty much wrap up the episode. Niku adopts a strange sea creature and gets way more than he bargained for when it brings chaos to the platform. The end. We're good. Thank you. Have a good night. So, again, we talked about this. It parallels so many other stories. It's not even funny. And we even predicted the ending, like, what, within the first 5 minutes of the show?
Oh, yeah.
We were pretty much sure what was going to happen before we even got to the big reveal. It was almost, like, too predictable. So,
Hey, Megatron was in this one.
yeah, he was. Look at that. So, at the very beginning of the movie, Niku finds this thing.
They pulled up wreckage or something,
Right.
didn't they?
Yeah, they pulled out wreckage, old wreckage, and this thing's in the wreckage, and he names it Bibo, and he calls him his smallest friend, and starts kissing it. Ew. I was, surprised at how quick he was to kiss a creature.
Sorry. Felt that coming.
A creature that looks like that. You know.
Look at Niku.
Yeah, I guess so. Maybe
He's got fingers grabbing his helmet
right.
for a
This is
face.
true. Yeah, yeah. I don't know. It was just kind of weird.
He's a living face of it.
It's just kind of weird that he was like kissing it that early. I was like, ew. Okay, so he wants this creature obviously as a pet. He thinks it's the cutest thing since sliced bread, and we all were kind of like, okay, so something's gonna happen with this creature. And it's funny because there's kind of a little mini fight about the creature and whether it's even helping or hindering, and it stinks, and it.
Everyone wants him to get rid of it.
Right, everybody wants him to get rid of it. And meanwhile, we have who's our lead character?
Zeb Brannigan.
No, you're killing me. It's Zeb. No, not Zeb. What the heck? Now you put that in my head. Who's our lead character? Oh my god. This is what happens when we don't watch this.
I got Zeb Brannigan stuck in my head.
Yeah, now I'm you jerk. You're such a
Welcome,
jerk.
welcome to the platform.
What's his name? Oh my gosh, this is awful. Who's our lead character?
Kazan or something.
I'm waiting.
Kaz.
I was
Kaz,
waiting for
thank
him
you.
to remember. I didn't want to help
I
him.
couldn't remember. See, this is what I'm telling you. This is where I started doubting myself, saying maybe I've got what my dad has. Okay, so
And
Or-
well, no. It's just the fact that there's no interest in this show at all.
well, it's been a while since I've watched it.
We
That's part of it.
haven't
okay.
watched it in quite a while.
So
There's still no interest in it.
So Kaz is gonna go out, and they're what, collecting things for wreckage, right? Just to bring back to the platform to sell. Him and his pirate girl, and
Who he doesn't know is a pirate.
who doesn't even know is a pirate at that point. And so they decide they're gonna bring stuff back to sell.
Now there is a
And-
little setup of intrigue. The tiniest bit that ties in previous episodes before it becomes completely about something else is she's talking to her
Right, I was about to
leader.
get into that. Yeah,
and
Kragan Gore.
Kragan,
Yeah.
and he says that there are members of the resistance on the platform. I never figured out, how did he know?
Well, I think that was in that one episode where the fight happened, and they figured out that somebody from the Resistance had to know they were coming. Remember, there was a little
Okay,
discussion
yeah.
about that. So I think that's where that came in. And so he tells Sonara, "There's got to be somebody from the Resistance in there." She thinks it might be Kaz.
Right.
So she's kind of like, while they're out on this platform, trying to like dig for information from Kaz to see if they'll just give it up. And ironically, he almost just gives it
Yeah.
up. And if it hadn't been for the creature, he might have talked too much, which
Yeah.
is weird. But that goes back to what you talked about a lot too, where he's like a spy, but he's like the worst spy ever.
He's a very unlikable character because he constantly is doing extremely telegraphed facial expressions
Yeah.
and voice inflections where it's like way too, obvious what he's thinking. Me? Oh, I'm not hiding anything. Why would you think that? It's like way overdone.
You do that really well,
yeah, that's the
actually.
problem. It's like it's too much.
I think we should
So-
hire you for Star Wars Resistance. Yeah.
They got to make him more. He's not subtle enough.
I agree with you. There's no subtext to anything he's saying.
He's
it's all overplayed. Yeah. Do you think that's the directing though, or do you think that's the actor? That's the part I'm still trying to
I
decide.
think he's written that way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the writing.
The writing. Okay. I could agree with that. So they see this big, huge creature go underneath their platform and it's heading towards their big platform, and of course they're panicked now because they know this creature seems to be gigantic and wants to attack the platform. So they race back to try to beat it. They try to create chaos on the platform. They try to sound alarms and all sorts of crazy stuff. And I guess they were security droids. I don't even know what they were.
Yeah.
Stop them from doing it. And then, of course, the creature attacks anyway.
Right, but then the green guy loses Bibo.
Yeah, Niku loses Bibo.
So they run after him and all that. They go down to the engineering aspect of the place.
Back with those turtle creatures.
And that's where we find Kel, and I forget the name of the daughter.
His sister or something.
Yeah, his sister. And it was kind of interesting because, they don't say where the power comes from, but the sister says
Clearly force.
she sees the future, right? And I'm sitting there thinking, that's got to be a Force kid, right? Like they're almost hinting that maybe these two are Force users.
Just the girl. I don't think the boy is.
Well, that we know of yet. I'm wondering, like, why would you have the boy there unless there's something we don't know yet that maybe we're gonna get into later.
Good brother and sister. And
Right.
The one's got the person and the one doesn't.
Maybe. I'm thinking maybe they both do, and he just doesn't know what his powers are yet.
It's a reverse Luke and Leia.
Yeah.
Right, almost. Yeah.
She's the more powerful one.
That's
and
true,
He doesn't
yeah.
know what power he's got.
Right. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
So,
But,
so when he gets old and about 60 years old, he can do his marathon.
yes,
Yeah.
he can float into space.
He'll,
Yes.
do, he'll do a Dick Van Dyke
There
Cruise.
you go, yeah.
Hop through some pain.
Chimney.
I was just sitting here thinking he'll be chim chimney, chim chimney, chim chim the force.
I saw a thing where British actors reviewed Americans doing English accents.
Yeah.
And they asked them who did the best, and they asked who did the worst. They all universally went, Dick Van Dyke and Ray Cobbin was the worst.
Really?
They said it was embarrassingly overdone.
Well, it was over the top. It was
And
supposed
they
to
were like,
be.
it was horrible.
Yeah. Well, it was very Cockney-esque and very bad in that regard. Yeah. So anyway, the station goes on alert because now they're getting attacked.
Yes.
And they launched, what would they call it? Their Squadron A or whatever, their Alpha Squadron. I don't
The
know.
racers.
The Racers, which it was kind of cool to finally see the Racers, all of them, involved in something
Well,
in any way.
they did
in that one
episode,
fight,
and they just went
right.
away.
And yeah,
And we didn't see what they did.
right. Like we didn't actually watch the
Yeah.
fight. Now we actually got to watch them fight, which was kind of cool.
Did you also catch the little bit of foreshadowing they threw in when she fixed the doors to the pirate girl there, Nazim?
Yeah,
Or
Sonara.
Nazneen.
Yeah. Sonara.
Oh.
Sonara San.
Sonara San.
Yeah.
Oh, the person's name.
Yeah.
Sonara San, he said, this is the pirate alarm. And
Oh,
she's like, good
yeah.
to know. And then he left and she repaired it. But I wonder if she's left something in so that if it gets
Oh,
attacked
so
in the
they
future,
right,
the doors will drop.
right, the doors will drop.
So I'm thinking that's going to tie in.
Oh, I didn't
think
catch
that's kinda
that. Yeah,
important.
yeah, yeah. So maybe that was a little kind of like nugget of something that's going to happen later. So, so the battle happens, and of course, Hype Phazon seems to be the guy leading the charge, which we knew was going to kind of be the case. And we had some cool fight scenes in there a little bit.
Consider that's the only one we know anything about.
Right? Well, we know a little bit about Griff, and the rest of them we kind of know, but not really, because we've had maybe one episode introduction of any of them. I thought it was interesting, like, I knew they all had guns on their ships, but apparently they all have missiles on their ships, and they get told by Captain Doza not to use the missiles, because it's too close to the platform. And it was funny, by the time the thing's ripping the platform apart, he's like, yeah, use missiles, we don't care at this point, it doesn't matter.
Stop the thing.
Right, just stop it at any and we're practically screaming at the TV at this point. Like we knew exactly what was going on. We knew Bibo was the creature's pet or kid,
Yeah.
and that's all the creature wanted.
They tried to throw you off by constantly saying it's its food source. It's come
Right,
to eat it.
it's come to eat it.
That way Niku was protecting it even more so. I don't
Right.
want it to be eaten.
So Niku ends up.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Here's this like 50-foot monster,
Yeah.
gonna eat this little.
Well, that's what I was thinking. If it's eating him, it's like a snack,
Yeah.
maybe, right? Like that's something I get stuck in my teeth if I'm the size of that
It's like
creature,
a poppy
right?
seed.
Right? Yeah.
a
Like,
Reese's Pieces or
like a
something.
Tic Tac, you know. Like actually, the creature gives the bigger creature. That's what gives him better breath. Is the stinky smelling version of him. Yeah. So anyway, so it's going after the Tic Tac, and so they decide to bring the baby out to its mother, and of course Niku brings it out, and he's practically crying. We're supposed to have this soulful moment, and then the creature goes away with mom. What I thought was really weird is mom puts the creature, the son or daughter, we're not sure which, in the palm of her hand and dives underwater, and that's it. That's all we see.
I mean, it probably sticks to her.
I would hope, but like,
It's like a barnacle.
can it breathe underwater? Because it didn't. I don't know.
That's where they found it when they pulled up the wreckage. It was
Oh, I
in
guess
this
it's
piece,
true. It was
so
in with a piece under the water, so I'm hoping it's okay. But
But I like that thought. It raised the one tentacle up, like it's gonna slap him.
yeah, and then it kind of offered it as a
came
peace
down.
offering,
And
and
yeah.
I
I
thought that was
thought
kind of cool.
the scale of the monster was really cool.
That was pretty impressive.
when
at
it came,
least.
when it rose up.
Yeah, you talked about the Zelo Beast. I think in the long run, it actually might be bigger than a Zelo Beast at the size and scale of that creature that we saw. Pretty close, maybe same size as the Zelo Beast. It was pretty big.
Now I want to see a future episode where this thing encounters the zombies.
That
I
that would
feel
be
like-
interesting.
I feel like this will be a future episode where it's going to come to the rescue.
Yeah.
Because
Right,
Niku-
because Niku saved the creature. Yeah, like we're almost predicting that at some
And
point.
then we need the space whales to come. Here I come to save the day.
light speed space whale.
With the two droids on her back.
Yeah.
In
the
space.
one from hyperspace.
Right, from hyperspace
That's
in
me-
Clone Wars.
That's me to name my band.
Hyperspace?
Lightspeed space whales.
That's gonna be the name of my band, Droids in Space. Okay, so
I'm not gonna have a band.
that's pretty much the whole story. I mean,
Yeah.
like, other than that, and that's where, like, I kind of agree with Gary. I'm kind of like, what was the point? Like, I still am trying to figure out from the grander scheme of Star Wars where this story even fit in. I can't, for the life of me, figure out, like, other than, like, that nugget you brought up, Eric, that I didn't even catch on to. You're just stuck on that word, I feel. That I didn't even catch on to what, like, that may be the most significant thing of the whole episode that took place.
Possible that and the opening of the back and forth with the trying to get the information.
Maybe, yeah, but that could have been done in any other episode in any other way, So it's just kind of like, yet again, we're kind of like sitting here perplexed because everybody keeps saying the show gets better and better as it goes on, and we're all sitting here going, really? Like, are we watching the same show? Like, I love you to death, Gary, but he's like fighting me every week going, do we have to watch Resistance? And I'm kind of like, yes, we're going to keep going. I want to finish it. We're only 10 episodes, 8 episodes out in the end.
Oh, we're only doing one season then? Good.
Yeah, well, if The Mandalorian's awesome and we don't have time for this show, sorry, Mandalorian's getting all of our attention. And I'm excited about some of the other shows that are going to come up on the Disney Plus app. So we may be going Disney Plus crazy soon. We might have to start calling ourselves a Disney Plus podcast or something. I don't know. But I mean, like, I get it. I'm having the same problem as you are. I'm looking at these episodes going, what's the point? Like, where are we going with any of this? We don't seem to be moving anywhere. There's no forward story thought. There's no progress towards anything.
Well, we talked about it right after we watched the episode, where we basically said this seems to be the writer's idea of character development.
Right, yeah.
We're introducing you to Niku and showing him being caring. We introduce you to the pirate and the secrecy. But the problem is, they're telling it in stories that don't seem to tie back into the major story. They could be doing both at the same time, and we'd care more. But because each of these are like throwaway stories, and again, they're not, like you said, maybe the creature comes back later.
Right.
But so much of this story seems to not tie into all the other things that they could be talking about that are interesting. It doesn't feel like character development. It just feels kind of boring.
I'd say it's a whole bunch of false advertising because when they first were showing this thing, it's about racing.
Yeah.
And then we get
I
like,
gotta admit, if I was watching this for the racing aspect, I'd be really disappointed. I mean, thank God I'm not, but I mean, you could be and be like, where's the racing? Like,
well, that's what I'm saying. Is it's when they were talking about it was about these pilots,
these racers.
You
Yeah.
know, become the next resistance pilots.
And we
stuff,
thought we'd get to meet all these racers.
Yeah, and we haven't met.
A dang one of them, really, quite honestly, yeah. Yeah, and I get it. I'm in the same boat. I'm still perplexed where we're going with this. What are we doing?
I'd like to think it's like a Stephen King book with a long setup, And then the
And then a
payoff
really
starts
quick
happening,
payoff at the end.
and we're like, oh, okay, all these characters, now that we don't really know them, but now that we've spent time with them, at least they start doing cool things, and then we like them more.
Maybe. I hope.
Rebels was that way.
I was just about to say, if you remember, towards the end of Rebels, we did feel a little better about it. I mean, I still don't think we felt a total connection with it. But by the end, when Kanan died and all these other things happened, we were kind of like, okay, there's a small... something happened. Yeah, like we were kind of like that, realistically. All right, so let's rate this episode, because we rate every episode. 0's a don't bother, 10's a must-see. I'll go first. Go ahead, Gary. What was your
0.
rating?
I was waiting for that.
A big goose egg.
Because it really... I'm taking it because it just didn't matter, right, in the longer scheme of things.
What does it have to do with Star Wars?
Did it feel Star Wars-esque at all? Like,
No.
I guess that's one of my problems here.
It
It didn't feel very Star Wars-esque at all.
Was BB-8 even in this episode?
It was for a very short, brief time.
Okay.
Very brief.
That's the closest you came to anything that felt Star Wars-y.
I'll give
Just
it
because
that.
you know the character.
How about you, Eric? What would you rate this one?
I'm gonna give it 2.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it wasn't super entertaining because it was predictable.
Yeah.
I said this off air, but I'll say it now on air. It's basically the movie Gorgo.
Right.
If you've ever seen the old monster movie Gorgo, which was a British version of kind of Godzilla, because it attacks like the Tower or Big Ben and stuff. It was a story about they catch this monster, they think it's a huge monster, it's rampaging, and they catch it, and then a bigger one comes out of the ocean, and they realize it's its mom coming to get it back, and they let it go, and the things leave peacefully. Boy, it sounds a lot like the episode we just watched.
Right. Right.
So, and then because there's no Star Wars in it, there's barely mention of the Resistance or of the there's no mention of the First Order.
Not at
pretty
all.
much.
Right.
The tiny bit with the pirates, like a few seconds. It was an inconsequential episode. There's literally about 15 seconds worth of stuff in there that might tie into future episodes.
That's funny, Eric. That's what I was going to rate. I was going to rate it a 2 as well. And that's because there's 2 good things in the entire episode. The one good thing in the episode was the point that you made that I didn't even catch about the future pirate thing. And then, to me, the only other good moment was the fact that the pirate captain let her know they're aware that somebody from Resistance is on there. That's the only 2 good parts of the whole episode.
That's
the rest of it
15
could have been
seconds.
right. It could have been done in any other episode at any other time.
That little nugget.
The nugget, as Gary likes to call it. Okay.
I really do hope stuff starts happening in the show
Soon, right? Because like I'm going crazy at this point. I'm like, where are we going?
And
with
I
this?
do remember a lot of people I followed online back when this was current episodes.
Right.
We're way behind.
We are way behind. Yeah.
When they were watching what I assumed to be was about this time frame, they were all bored. They were all saying, "God, something happened."
Yeah. Please, for Lord. Yeah.
So I feel like maybe something will start happening in about 2 to 3 episodes.
I heard 2 episodes from now. It's supposed to get a lot more exciting from that point to the
Okay,
end. At
well,
least that's what I'm hearing.
Let's hope.
Of course, my expectations are so low at this point. I don't know. So we can always hope.
Oh, that's Space Whale.
We need a new hope. You hear that? We need a new hope.
We need Space Whale.
Okay.
Jedi Killer Dillion drops on the platform, starts
You know what we need?
slaughtering everybody.
Hang
That'd
on.
be awesome.
Hang on. Here's what we need. We need Peter Dinklage to wear pants with space whales. So you
Yes.
can go, space whales, space whales,
Yep.
space shorts.
Look
Okay.
at my space whale.
You up front. You're being pretty rude.
I love that whole thing. Okay, so those are our thoughts on Star Wars Resistance. We'd love to hear from you. I'm sure we will. Email us at galaxycast.com. Check us out on Facebook and Twitter. And find us on YouTube. And as we always like to say here in the Star Production Studios, may the Force be with those who listen.
Shatterpoint.
Shazam.
I stopped it already. Sorry. All right.
I was looking at you to see if you were going to say something.
I almost thought Angelic Master Gillian, but I let that one go.
We already put it in the episode.
We did, yeah. Save this quick. Should have saved it earlier. And yes, our video is still currently running.
So yeah, bring up Facebook after this. I'll show you the Chris guy I was talking about that I continue to reach out to. And just
Okay.
even just send him like a Facebook message and tell him who
Yeah.
you are and what you'd like to do.
All
I'd
right,
like to get
Video
into
Land.
I'm sorry.
That's it. We'll see you later.
Bye.
Hopefully this worked.